Welcome back to Rocket Gyan, my fellow space tubers. So, today is a very interesting day. We just witnessed the launch of the Vega rocket, and we can say it was successful. And it is still ongoing, but now the interesting launch of the today is scheduled, and that is the launch of the Tianhe launch. Core module for the Chinese Space Station, and we'll talk about the Chinese Space Station, what characteristics it has, what is the rocket which um, is being launched on, and yeah, you can just wait and see. So, hi John Wilson, hi Labrat, hi Raptor Engine, hi Jackie, um, hi Stephen. And at present, the Long March 5B rocket has completed the propellant refueling. Yes, and we'll be seeing all of that. So, talking about, first of all, let's just talk about the rocket. What rocket it is being launched on? So the rocket which it is being launched on is the Long March 5B. So there is two versions for the Long March 5. This is the heaviest rocket right now the Chinese have, and it actually has some significant capabilities also. So it is actually having two versions, Long March 5 and Long March 5B. The Long March 5B does not have the second stage, which you can see right now from this picture itself. As you can see here, this is the second stage which the Long March 5 has, but we don't have anything for the Long March 5B. So you can actually say it is kind of an SSTO, which means the single stage to the orbit, and but that wouldn't be right, because these are the boosters, which booster stage also, which are separate, and yeah, so you can say it is 1.5 stage to the orbit. So yeah, so talking about the payload capacity, it is around 20 to 24 tons to the low 23 tons to the low Earth orbit, and 22 tons to the low Earth orbit for the Long March 5B. And yes, so the engines which it is carrying on the core stage is the YF-77 engine, and we just a sec, where is it? And okay, so the engine on the core stage is the YF-77 engine, which is these two engines. These are the YF-77, and the booster stage have YF-100 engine. So what is the difference between these two engines? Well, the difference is that this booster stage engines runs on Carolox as its fuel, which is kerosene and liquid oxygen, and for the core stage it runs on liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen as its fuel. So this is a very cool rocket. I mean, this is a very beautiful looking rocket, and it is a very cool rocket also. And when it just lifts off, all those plumes coming out of the rocket, they are just so beautiful to see. So we'll see that. And yeah, this is more of a technical point of view in which you can see, but since this actually is a Long March 5 cross sectional area in which you can see the second stage, but in Long March 5 we don't have a second stage, we just have a large fairing. So that is the case. Now talking about the space station, what are the China's plan for their space station? So first of all, shout out to Shimken.info for providing this cool graphic here, and let me just explain what are the inputs for this, what are the actual characteristics of this thing. So right now you can see that it has these it has one docking port here, one here, one here, and one here. So these are the nodal you can say the docking port for the Tianhe's. They say Tianhe's, I can't pronounce it properly, sorry for that, but they say it is Tianhe's node in which most of the docking will happen. So that is the case, and this is the EVA airlock with the handrail. So this is a specific one, because from this airlock, the astronauts will be able to come out for a spacewalk. And yeah, astronauts, talking about the astronauts, for the China, they don't call them astronauts, they call them taikonauts. So US call them astronauts, Russia call them cosmonauts. Chinese people call their people as taikonauts, and ISRO is also planning for the human spaceflight mission, and they call them Vyomnauts. Okay, so every country has different name for their astronauts. So yeah, that is the case. So this is the place in which you can dock with the Shenzhou capsule. So Shenzhou capsule is like a the orbital spacecraft capable of docking with the space station, and it will carry humans to the space station. So that is the thing. This is where the Shenzhou spacecraft will dock. These are the two ports where the experimental station will dock. This is just the core module which is being launched today. There are many other parts also. And then from in the aft section, the rear part of this also has one docking port, and in that docking port most of the time the crew, the resupply missions will dock, in which there will not be any crew as such, just the resupply missions in which the cargo comes in. That is the case. And the solar panels, the radiators, and we also have this remote manipulator system which could work as kind of like the Canada arm. So yeah, then we have these handrails for EVA support. So we'll talk about this thing. And now since we have talked about the Tianhe space station as a whole, so now we can talk about how it looks from the inside. What are the specific, or you can say the allocations of resources from the inside. So this is what we have inside the station in this particular core module. So shout out to Space Shuttle Almanac for this graphic. And yeah, so here we have the nodal plane, in which a node where all the spacecrafts will dock. Then we have the sleeping zone 1, sleeping zone 2, sleeping zone 3, and the coding zone. This is a very interesting place here. This is basically, this part is actually for life support and living and all those things. And they have this exercise zone here. And then this part is where they can do some experiments, do some life support system is here. You can see that. Then we have the test load installation exercise. The dining zone is also here. The astronaut operation zone is there. Exposure experiment zone is here. So the thing with this module here is that till the time we don't have the experimental stations docked on these two sides, in which they will actually have those sophisticated modules in which they can perform the research, they will be, all the science will be coming on from this this compartment. And this, let me just tell you that we also have the unpressurized component also here. So this exposure experiment zone here, you can see that this is not pressurized. So whenever the crew resupply mission comes and docks with the the cargo resupply mission comes and docks with the after docking part, they will have to go the supply has to come in through this unpressurized section first, and then they can take it from this section unpressurized to pressurized, and then they will can take it to anywhere they want. So that is the case. And if you ask me why do they have this unpressurized section here, well, the answer simply is that they have this propulsion compartment here. They have these two thrusters, primary thrusters, in which they have the propulsion compartment. So the fueling, the engines and all those piping, fueling lines and all those are situated in this thing. So that's why it is unpressurized here. So they have this roll thruster also. This core module will have I don't know whether the core module or the full station, but I have heard that this will also have the electrical propulsion also. So this primary thrusters, which are the chemical rocket engines, will mostly be for changing the orbit at a dramatic rate, but the electrical propulsion system will be there for station keeping. Whenever the orbit is degrading, you don't need a large amount of thrust and large amount of delta V as such for the station keeping. So you can go on with the electrical propulsion, and it will be very interesting to see how will they refuel this electrical propulsion system, because whenever refueling we have heard about, we have only heard about the chemical aspect of it, but we haven't heard about the refueling of the electrical propulsion. So this would be interesting to see. And so official stream is not in English, so would be very difficult to understand. Yes, elaborate, and that is why I am trying to explain everything in English right now, so that you can get a hang of what is happening, what you will be about to see, and all those things. So just a sec. So yeah, this is how the thing looks like. And now we can move on to the another image. And yeah, this is the official construction of the space station. This is the timeline of the construction of the space station. So first of all, this space station will be 1/5 the size of the International Space Station. Obviously, International Space Station is very huge, and it was developed by collaboration of many countries. So that would be that would not be the size of this space station. This will be 1/5 the size of the International Space Station, more like the size of the Mir space station. So yeah, so first of all, we have this Tianhe Core Module launch, which is scheduled for today. And for the record, guys, this space station will be the fastest ever space station constructed in orbit. I mean, the ISS took around 10 years for its construction. This will be completed by 2022. So they have a very tight timeline, and they are you can see that they are very ambitious for this project. And keeping in mind the record of the China, they will certainly achieve this thing also. So first of all, the Tianhe core module will be launched. This is the core module which we can see here. This is the core module. Then we have this Tianzhou 2 mission, in which this will be the mission which will be a resupply mission. So this resupply mission will dock with the first part, the aft part of this one. So this is the Tianzhou 2 mission, in which there will be a cargo resupply mission. And then we have this Shenzhou 12 mission. In this Shenzhou 12 mission, we will have the astronauts going to the space station, or the taikonauts going to the space station. This is where they will dock with the space station. Docking the rear direction, fly around to the forward. Okay, so they will dock first of all, they will dock with the rear, and then they will fly around into the forward docking port. So that is the case. So hopefully before the Shenzhou 12 arrives, this the resupply mission will have to do some changing in the docking port. We'll have to see how they will go about it. Forward docking port, refueling test, mechanical arm transportation test. So this will be the objectives of the Tianzhou 2 mission, and the Shenzhou 12 will be the crew one. And Tianzhou 3 will be a resupply, Shenzhou 13 crew, Tianzhou 4 resupply, Shenzhou 14 crew, Tianzhou 5 resupply, Shenzhou 15 crew. So, and this is a station construction phase. Till here we have the station construction phase, and in this station construction phase we will also see the experimental station, which will dock with this nodal plane, and we will finally get this as the main product here. So yeah, that is the case. If you have anything else which you people can add, which I don't know right now, or you have any good information, you can surely write in the chat, and I'll read that also. So the next thing, okay, so this thing is very cool. I mean, this is the VR section, VR thing, which the CMSE released, which is the Chinese Manned Space Enterprise, in which I don't know whether I pronounced it rightly, the full form, but yeah, the CMSE released this VR in which you can actually visualize the space station here. So right now you are in the Shenzhou spacecraft, which is the crewed orbital spacecraft here, right? This is the um, Shenzhou spacecraft here. Then you will be going to the Tianhe, the second, you know, the entrance to the space station is this Tianhe node cabin. Yeah, this was the thing which I was talking about. This is the node cabin in which you can go anywhere. You can go to the life support, you can go to the experimental station. As you can see, we have this thing here. I can't read it in Chinese, I don't know what it says, but yeah, then we have this thing here. Hopefully these are the experimental one, this and this one. This is the experimental one, and obviously this is from where we came. This one is from where we came, this Shenzhou spacecraft. And we also have something below us also. Yep, this is the basically the below docking port is the backup docking port in case there are two resupply crew missions to the station, or something goes wrong with the main docking port. So that is the case. And also the EVA airlock above. Come on. Yeah, this is the EVA airlock in which you can go outside. That is the case here. Then the Tianhe life control cabin. This is the cabin in which you can sleep. This is the cabin for the crew, in which they will be most probably be coming in when they are not at work. So these are the sleeping quarters and exercise zone, which you can see here. Hopefully that is the case. Yup, these are mostly the sleeping quarters, you can say that. And some water and all those things. Now we can go to the resource pod. Though this resource pod is actually that other cabin of the core module only. So in which you can dine, you can exercise, and obviously the crew resupply, the cargo resupply mission, we can take that also. So this is that cabin here. Hopefully, first of all, they will have this all those research elements here only in this thing. Okay, where did everything go? Where are the options? Yeah. And then we can go to the experiment cabin 1 and the experiment cabin 2. This is mostly will be the research compartment in which the taikonauts will be coming in at the work hours, and you know, doing all the science research and all those things here. Obviously the laptop here, most probably like the ISS. We can see some plants also. This is the place where you will actually do some research. And then they also have this experiment cabin 2, in which in this also they will do the research that was for some specific purpose. This is also for some other purpose. More technical details about these things have to follow. Right now we don't have much details, but yeah, this VR thing is very cool in visualizing everything, right? So yep, that is the case. The core cabin is 16.6 meters, original design to be 18 point, weighs 20 tons, and have 5 docking points and a design life of 10 years. Yes, you are very much right about it. So that is the case about the mission. So talking about, let me just see if we have anything else in the chat here. CGTN had a live stream with the mock of the internal area. Looks so different to the ISS section. Yes, Jarki, CGTN had a live stream. I also watched that, in which they actually explained all the components of the space station. So yep, that is the case. The launch is in 46 minutes from now. And guys, this is a neat interior. Yes, how this is the thing which I have actually researched and gathered in many days. I have researched all those things, so that is the product of what you are seeing right now. So what else do we have? So guys, if you are new to this channel and new to this stream, let me just tell you what I do. I host live streams of every rocket launch that happens in the space industry, all the space events also. So you can, if you like what I do and what I have just explained, you can just like this stream, subscribe, and maybe consider becoming a Patreon. It really helps the channel. And yep, that is the case. I'm wondering what NASA will do after the International Space Station retire. China's own space station will be the only one in the space. Let's don't forget NASA did ban China from the space projects, and I think that is the reason why they have their own space station here. And after the ISS, I don't think when ISS will retire, Chinese will take over. I think the space station in type, the space station thingy will be there. I mean, after this Chinese space station will be completed, the ISS will get a breather, I must say. Okay. So it can reduce the work, or we can have a boost in the science coming out of these stations from the zero gravity. So that is the case. And let me just see if we do have any other live stream as such. Just a sec. We do have a stream, but that is not in English. Let me just find if we have any English stream right now, and if we do have that, so we'll see that. Let me see. Yep, we do have one English stream. I'll switch over to that. So if you have any other questions right now, guys, you can surely and very much ask me right now, and then we can switch over to the streams. Okay. One more thing is left, and that is this I actually wanted you to see this main when everything is completed. So this is the experimental station, experiment 1, experiment 2, which you just saw. This is the core module which is being launched today. This is the cargo resupply mostly which will come, and this is the Shenzhou spacecraft. So this is what we have here. Let me just switch over to the stream. Just a sec. And there you go.
At Wenchang Spacecraft Launch Site. Hello, Ning Hong, and how are the preparations going so far?
Hello. Well, yes, now we're in a platform very close to the launch pad, and the rocket is about roughly 3 kilometers in front of the launch pad. You can see now the rocket and the service platform is now open. The rocket, we have learned that the propellants now have been added into the rocket. You can see that there are vapors showing beside the rocket. That's because it is using the low temperature liquid propellants, and it's now people need to fill the propellants, continue filling it until before the launch. And we're now about half an hour before the launch, and you can see that this is a very open platform. We could see directly see the launch pad, and also this is the rocket that carrying the core module of China's space station, the Tianhe, and we'll soon entering a new era where China will have its own space station. And also the rocket now they're using is the Long March 5B rocket. Like you said, it's a specially made rocket for to sending modules like a spacecraft into the orbit, low Earth orbit. And also in the meantime, we have learned that the weather here today is not very good, but it's a little bit cloudy, a little bit windy, but it seems that, well, people are confident about the launch. So the launch is very likely to be continued, and it will be launched about half an hour from now on.
Well, thank you, Ning Hong. That's our reporter.
So March 2028 says if the cargo docking port isn't pressurized, how will they get the pressurized cargo to the space station? Well, for the pressurized cargo, we'll have to see whether they will transfer the pressurized section. I mean, if they have to, we'll have to see. I don't have any idea right now about that, but we'll have to see what they will do.
Launch vehicle. This is basically due to the limitations that we have launch site inland in China.
Here we have the rocket, guys, the Long March 5 rocket, and it is venting right now, which means it is topping off the fuel. It runs on, if you just don't know what are the stages and of this launch vehicle. So this launch vehicle basically has the core stage, which runs on liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen as its fuel, and the boosters, which are attached, the side boosters, it runs on liquid oxygen and kerosene as its fuel. So this is the rocket which uses two types of propellant. And one more interesting part of this rocket, that it does not have any as such second stage. Yes, this is they only have the core stage, which will go all the way to the orbit and deploy the space station core module. So that would be interesting thing to watch.
That's super one.
That is very critical. And you were just watching live pictures coming from that Wenchang Spacecraft Launch Site. But Mr. Yang, let me bring you into this. There's a bit of green technology involved in the fuels, right? Talk to us about the clean fuels that the rocket is going to use.
Yes, you know that Long March 5 family is called the new generation of China's launch vehicles. Before that is currently in service is Long March 2, 3, and 4 series. All these launch vehicles use UDMH or
And
unsymmetrical
guys,
dimensional.
let me just, I know what is actually going on in the chat, but just let me just tell you guys, space and space technology, rocket science is very different from politics. Whatever you think about China, politics and all those things, but when it comes to space science, we should only think about humanity. Okay, that is what my perspective is, because space is the only sector which right now I can think of in which you work for the humanity. You don't work for a single country, you work for the betterment of the humanity. So if any country is progressing in their plans, that means you are actually getting closer for the benefit. You are actually will be getting a boost to the science for the station. So from the you know, these type of missions. So yeah, that is the case.
But on the other hand, it's
T minus 40 minutes.
you see that liquid hydrogen and the liquid oxygen must be being kept in a very low temperature. So it requires it raises a very high requirement to the launch pad and to the launch procedure. You may see the white smokes or the white fog coming out from the vehicle itself. That is vaporized
That's
liquid
vapor.
oxygen.
And we were having that shot of the countdown clock. We were just 40 minutes away from the launch, and you were seeing the shot of the command center. People are doing these final preparations. And Mr. Xu, how does the Long March 5 compare with other heavy lift rockets that are in operation now? We're having this great view of this Long March 5 rocket at the launch pad now.
Yes, the Long
And
March
we
5
can
has
see the
like,
retraction of the arms.
its unique characters. Use the liquid kerosene as the strapped arm boosters. As you can see, the total configuration, there are 4 strapped arm boosters along with the centerpiece,
people,
which is, YF77 liquid hydrogen and oxygen engine. So this is a character that you know, when you launch, you use the kerosene as propellant in the atmosphere. So compared with other vehicles, we have upgraded the centerpiece, which is the core engine, into a liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, which has a better ratio in propulsion once it enters outer space. So the rocket is very efficient and also environmental friendly. As Professor Yang mentioned, the Hainan launching site is built for such a fuel only. So UDMH and nitrogen tetroxide is not part of the plan for Hainan, only kerosene and oxygen. So it's very clean and also very efficient rocket.
And thank you so much for that $8 super chat, Taiwan. It really helps the channel, and it really helps for me to keep giving you all these type of contents. And yeah, and he made a very good point that this launch site was actually made in mind that only green
In the evaluation and assessment of the launch vehicle, we have to find the appropriate purpose for the development of such a vehicle. For example, our human missions to the moon and beyond. So the heavy lifting, we call it Long March 9 sometimes, is twice as height as of what we're going to see. We're seeing now. This rocket we're seeing, Long March 5B, is only 53.7 meters in height. But the new generation Long March 9, let's call it for now, it would be more than 97 meters. It's evaluated. And once we have that, I'm sure the human missions and more ambitious programs will be implemented.
All right, we were seeing the monitors showing the humidity, the temperatures at the launch site, and we were just less than 35 minutes to go to the launch. But Professor Yang, it looks like we're having a bit of overcast sky there. Is it an ideal climate or weather for the launch?
That doesn't have much influence to our launch. You see that for launch procedure, there are many conditions we must meet. For instance, there should not be thunder and lightning during the trajectory of the rocket. And also, before the launch, the wind should also be well monitored, because the wind have very great influence during the flight. And also, you see that because until now, the human being cannot go into orbit with only one single stage, so we need to drop our stages in the sea or in the land. For this Wenchang Spacecraft Launch Site, our boosters, our payload fairings of this long-term launch 5B will drop into the sea. So before the launch, we should see we should confirm that during the dropping areas there is no any vehicles, either ships or planes, coming through this area. So we must keep this safe, and also we must ensure that other systems, for instance, such as the telecommunication and tracking system, is okay. We have ground stations and also have space tracking systems. All must be in good condition.
All right, Dr.
Okay.
Yang and Dr. Xu, stay with us.
That is a good thing. So guys, as he mentioned, there should not be any lightning or thunder happening, and at around 3 hours before from now, there was a lightning and the launch site. So
First space station. The core
Just see
module
this
of
thing
Tianhe
right
is about
now.
16.6 meters long with a diameter of over 4 meters. It's divided into 3 parts: the connector, the life support and the control section, as well as the section for resources. The connector looks like a hexagon. It has 2 base ports for 2 lab modules called Wentian and Mengtian, and 3 docking ports for the Shenzhou crew spacecraft, the cargo and other vehicles. It also has an exit on top where astronauts can conduct spacewalks. This is the living area of the crew. It's about 50 cubic meters. It's also called
Wow.
the thinner area. It's got 3 sleeping areas and 1 sanitary part.
this is
This
beautiful.
is the thicker part, which is the working area, where astronauts control the daily operation of Space Center while conducting some scientific experiments. If we take a look from the outside, this is the resources part of Tianhe. It's responsible for fueling the space station. Once operational, the space station can host 3 astronauts for 6 months and up to 6 astronauts by replacement. Tianhe, along with its Long March 5B Y2 carrier rocket, has currently been transported to China's Wenchang Spacecraft Launch Site in Hainan Province, and it's all set to kick off its journey into space. Yu Yang, CGTN, Beijing.
Yes, someone asked that whether this looks like a Soyuz. Yes, the inspiration kind of it looks like a Soyuz. Only the Shenzhou spacecraft it looks like a Soyuz, but it could be an inspiration because initially whatever things when the Chinese Space Agency was in initial phase, Russia actually helped in the technology and all those parts. So inspiration could be very well from that part.
Call it the Chubby 5 or Pangwu in Chinese because of its size. It's a heavy
like
lift
that
launch
nickname.
vehicle.
I like that nickname.
And guys, let me just repeat what I just said, that please, politics is different and space technology and the rockets are totally different. And whatever we get out of space technology, it goes into humanity and not into country, and politics is totally different from that. So if you are here, please maintain some decorum and just enjoy the launch, enjoy just be happy that something is going up into space which will generate science and it will help humanity. We never know whether if we get some good research out of this space station, that some breakthrough of this from this space station, maybe it can really help humanity to overcome and get some new technology, so that's why I always say this thing.
Rockets such as the Long March 2F or Long March 7 rocket, which is pretty impressive.
Yes, as Mr. Xu has mentioned, because of the limitation of the railway tunnels, so our inland launch site can only use the diameter of the 3.35. So that is the diameter of even the core stages of other rocket vehicles. But for this launch vehicle, the boosters has so big diameter. And we should also emphasize that the 4 boosters provide more than 90% of the thrust, of the total thrust during the liftoff. Because they use a powerful rocket engine called YF-100, which have a thrust of about 120 tons. So each rocket boosters use 2 of these engines. So totally, the 4 boosters can provide a thrust about 960 tons. You can see that this is the biggest launch complex in China. And just now we can see from the camera that there are some white fogs coming out from the top
What
of
is
the
that?
boosters. That is the oxygen. That is
Okay.
vaporized liquid oxygen. Because you know that it must be kept in a very low temperature. And by vaporizing,
All right, that is the call out you're hearing now. It is 30 minutes prior to launch. It is T minus 30 minutes. And at this point, what happens here, Professor Yang?
well, we have a countdown in different stages. For the 30 minutes countdown, we've already completed many checking of the critical systems. For instance, such as the telemetry and the tracking systems, the space tracking ships, and also to confirm that other systems are okay. Moreover, we should also test some of the subsystems on board the vehicle itself. So each must be kept in good condition and monitored by the data downloaded. And also, you can see also there are some small arms on the vehicle because we have multiple plugs connected to the vehicle, and one by one they will be disconnected, and finally the major plug, the main plug, will be disconnected, and the vehicle will be completely depending on the power supply of itself. At that moment, we can perform the launch.
And it is also the time where, you know, the last batch of team members pulling away from the launch pad, is it?
So at this moment, there is no ground staff near the vehicle because it will be very dangerous. So there are procedures, or the safety procedures ensure the safety of our staff. You see that the fueling has been completed several hours before. At this moment, the ground staff must leave the launch pad because if there any uncertain things happened, the explosion will stress the life of our ground staff.
John Wilson asked, what is the orbit and the inclination for this one? Is it higher or lower? So the orbit actually is 400 kilometer circular orbit around the Earth, and the inclination will be around 42.5 degrees. So more or less it is similar to ISS, but you know, the thing is that if anyone has to dock with this station directly from the Earth to, I mean, if they don't want to do any orbital change maneuvers in the space, the condition is that the latitude of the launch site should be less than the inclination of the orbit. If it is so, then you can have a launch window in which you can directly launch into that orbit. You don't require any orbital you know, plane change maneuver. So that is the case. So if so now you can analyze which countries can launch into if this is you know, open for the international collaborations, which countries can dock to the Chinese space station.
Making a more environmental friendly engines and the more environmental friendly fuels, right?
That's true.
Yes.
And the timing of the launch, Professor Yang, talk to us a little bit about it. How did they choose this launch window? I would imagine a lot of factors went into this decision.
Yeah.
Well, you see that because this is the first launch of our Tianhe Space Station. Theoretically speaking, it only need to launch into orbit with the right attitude and the right inclination. So theoretically speaking, there is no much limitation to this, but also there are some limitations about the sunlight. You see that when the Tianhe module come into the orbit, the sunlight must in the right direction to ensure the power supply of the vehicle. So the launch window is limited by this consideration. The angle between the direction of the sunlight and the orbital plane must be less than 30 degrees. And also this because this is condition of the sunlight, and also the time of the launch, we must ensure that when the rocket rocket, the end stage of the rocket is separated from the space station. When the solar panels is deployed, there are also sunlight to ensure the power supply.
Yeah,
So
sometimes we saw this kind of launching window in the middle of the night, yeah?
Yeah. But this is the launch of the first module. For the second module and other ships, the things will be changed because they match the
Why is
launch
that?
into the first orbital plane. The accuracy of the launch window is only 1 second, which is called zero launch window.
Zero launch
Instantaneous.
window.
So once
Yeah.
it's missed it, you have to be...
Another day.
Oh,
They have to
okay.
totally reschedule then.
Well, maybe it's better than the Mars exploration because once it's missed, it's going to need to wait another 26 months, right?
Maybe the next for this, maybe the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
Every day we have a launch window for this
more tolerate.
for the next vehicle to go into the same orbital plane of the station.
Exactly.
Mr.
He
Xu, let me
explained
bring
this
you into our
orbital plane and launch
discussion.
window
We
very
are
perfectly.
looking at the view of the command center at the Wenchang Spacecraft Launch Center.
This is
And
the
talk to us about this launch
weather,
site. I
you
mean,
know?
there are 4
Guys, just a sec. There is some
Long,
problem with
can we
the.
expect
Yep,
it
now
for
it
this
should
flight?
be good.
Like, how long did it take to enter this orbit?
Roughly, we consider that launching opportunity, launching timing by seconds. I think it's around 1,270 some seconds before we see the insertion.
That's about
of
10
the
minutes?
Yes. So once it's in there, they will see the deployment of the solar array of the Tianhe and then start communicating with the Tianhe. So right now, the ground crews as well as those connecting ports, or the umbilicals, you can see from the ground to the launch.
This is where the Long March 7 carrier rocket comes in. It will be used to carry the Tianzhou cargo ship, which will contain food, water, and other necessary supplies to the space station. All of these missions are integral parts, furthering China's endeavors for space exploration. Wu Lei, CGTN.
And welcome back. You're now watching our special coverage of China's latest special launch. We're just 16 minutes away from that launch, and staying with us are our guests, Mr. Xu Yanzhong and Dr. Yang Yuguang. So, Dr. Yang, let's start with you this time. To construct such a space station is planned as the last step of China's manned space program that was envisioned firstly in 1992, right? 29 years in the making. I mean, how have previous steps contributed to this moment?
Well, you see, there are 3 fundamental technologies needed for construction of a space station. The first one is the transportation, the crewed transportation from the Earth to the outer space and back. This is first technology. The second is, as Wu Lei has mentioned, the EVA or extravehicular activity technologies, which we accomplished by the Shenzhou 7 mission in 2008. And the third technology is rendezvous and docking technologies, which we completed testing by the Tiangong 1 target vehicle and the Shenzhou 8, 9, and 10 spaceships. Also with the Tiangong 2 and Shenzhou 11, Tianzhou 1 mission, we mastered the technology of midterm residence in space by Mr. Jing Haipeng and Mr. Chen Dong. They stayed there for a month. And also with the Tianzhou
Okay, guys,
1.
I am back. Very sorry for the interruption. If just spam refresh in the chat if there is a problem, because there was some issue with the internet at just the last moment. It my recharge was exhausted, my data was exhausted basically, so I had to recharge it again. So I'm back. We are still T-minus 15 minutes away from the launch and everything is looking good, but
Yeah, the controller is saying that is the 15 minutes countdown. And Mr. Yang, well, yeah, this is the whole plan has been carried out step by step, according to you. Doug, Mr. Xu, I want to ask you that what
you
do we
can
learn
now
from-
change the quality to the highest. No problem will occur now. I've recharged it, so everything is good now.
Well, the Tiangong 1, we learned something very special. Let's talk about Tiangong 2 first.
Yeah.
Rendezvous docking, as well as the connection between the cargo ship, there are 2 ways, automatic or automated docking and rendezvous, and man-controlled rendezvous and docking. So we have demonstrated all that, and also we demonstrated the fueling of the station in microgravity environment. This is crucial because now once you're in microgravity environment, the fuels are floating instead of just dropping on the bottom of the container. So the fueling can be very challenging and also requires special technologies.
And Dr. Yang, you were watching the live feed with us. What was disconnected just then?
Well, that is a cable which monitoring some of the subsystems, some critical systems of the vehicle. You see that we have a control system called the GNC or guidance, navigation and control system. We must keep that for instance,
Thanks, March
such
2028.
as gyroscopes.
I would be very obliged to have that.
Onboard computers are okay. So we have the cables to have data links, download the critical parameters of these instruments. And before the launch, you see that there are several cables. So just now we just disconnected one of them. There are also other cables. Just before the launch, we will disconnect the last one, which provide also power supply to the vehicle. And now, because some of this system have already been okay, we also hear from the front, from the ground control center, there are the Tongguling, which have a ground tracking station, is also okay.
All right, about 10 minutes into the final preparations.
Yeah, with those the cables that's been plugged in, this the main body of the
So
rocket.
guys, the rocket is good right now. The rocket is in good health. Everything is looking good. Only problem is the weather. We'll have to see whether they will be able to launch in this weather. We also had some. See, this is the thing with the weather. 224.9 degrees Celsius. 1 meter per second is the wind, I think so. I don't know the Chinese, but we'll have to see. 87% is the probability, is it so, or is it the humidity? I don't know, but we'll have to see that.
Talk to us, what is it like for them? I mean, during these last few minutes, few seconds leading up to time zero, I mean, it is one of those heart-pounding moments, I would imagine, right? It's got to be extremely nerve-wracking, but at the same time, you got to keep calm and focus on what you do. What do you think is going through their minds?
Well, as we started from 30 minutes countdown to all this moment, there's a sequence that I've already designed many times, and so they have also practiced all of this many times. So I think their lack of they're good in confidence because the data, as Professor Yang mentioned, are constantly feeding back from the rocket. Even though the cables are disconnected, we still have remote TTNC signals, and we have also all the sensors that is working. So the ground crew or in the command room, they're controlling, monitoring, and keep constant eye on those signals, on those sensors, on the data, some parameters. So if everything goes normal, because they have the chart to compare, and if everything goes normal, they will go to countdown to the last minute or the last second. If not, they will have the authority to call off the launch. We have this happen before, even seconds before the launch, we call off the launch itself because of the anomaly occurred in the launch vehicle. So even disconnected, we still have all the connections made to the launch vehicle.
Exactly. He actually is very, this team is very informative in the sense he's actually giving some technical details and how the things proceed, which is very good. And Semilkark, if it hits one of the Starlink satellite, that won't happen because the launch window and the trajectory is chosen in a way in which it does not hit any of the objects in the orbit. So yeah, that is the case. Although it becomes difficult to find the proper launch windows and trajectory as when you have more objects in space, but yeah.
Oh, that's the call out from the commander.
We can hear from the ground control center that the chief commander has announced this T-minus 10 minutes countdown.
And what happened prior to this, around this time, is that the air conditioning for the fairing has been cut off, right? Talk to us about it.
You see that the temperature and other environmental parameters must be kept in the correct range during the launch. So there is an air conditioner inside the payload fairing. It also needs the power supply. just before the launch, because only 10 minutes, we can ensure that even if it's shut down, the temperature is still in the right range. So at this moment, we can shut down the air conditioner and go on. And as Yansheng has mentioned, we not only have signals from the cables, we also have wireless connections. You see that the payload fairing is made of metals. So we must prepare some special non-metal material to have a window to allow the radio signals to coming through.
Exactly.
That's right. That's a comfort.
Electromagnetic shielding, that's what we call. I didn't actually, wow, that is the good thinking there. I mean, I haven't thought about it that if you have to have the signals coming out of the rocket, you need to penetrate that metal shielding, and the electronic signals does not do that. So they have to prepare some materials in which those signals can come out of. So yep, that is the case here. So that's why I like some of the Chinese launch stream, because whenever they happen, we get a very good insight of the technical details and all those things.
Gotta have that.
Yeah, Mr. Xu, can we go ahead with our go no go question? I'm
Sure.
still very curious about that. We've been interrupted by the countdown.
Well, yes, I think the go and no go is basically on the launch vehicle statics. We see the pressure of the engines, and all the engines are okay, and all the ground control and systems are fine. Because once you have the liftoff, you have the rocket only controlled by the TT&C system, and all the data has to be transmitted back. So we have to make sure that all the sensors in different part of the rocket, in particular the engine system, the fueling system, and the all of that has to be in the right temperature and right pressure. This happened before, because we've seen anomalies. As you know, the Hainan is a highly humid and high temperature areas. So that also happened in before for the liquid kerosene or oxygen engine. So all of the factors are compiled together. Some of them are critical enough to call off the launch. So, but fingers crossed. Certainly, we hope this one is a smooth one.
All right, that was a great split screen, but you're now watching the side boosters of the rocket. We are just moments away from that liftoff. Also talk to us, Dr. Yang, the energy about the core module. I mean, everything run in the module needs energy, right? And I suppose solar energy is the main source?
Yes, you see that's the final step of the launch, in which case we can announce the successful launch success of this mission will be the deployment or the unfolding of the solar panels. That means the core module can have continuous power supplies from the sun. You see that our core module have a one-dimensional SADA, or the solar array driving assembly, which can rotate and let the surface of the solar panels meet the sun.
All right. And they do have Wi-Fi up there, I heard. Is it true
Exactly.
that they're
Yeah.
going to have 5G
Yes.
coverage?
Yeah, they can
Yes.
play the video games and talk to their family.
Maybe they can play video game, but maybe the astronauts should bring a laptop to the station. So you see that this happened during the operation of the International Space Station. But you see that's the most favorite entertainment of the astronaut is not video game. It's just watching the beautiful Earth and taking
Yeah.
photos of them, of their family, of their cities, and other
Exactly.
countries.
That is great.
And
the
guys,
core
I want to repeat the fact that the thing which you are watching is related to space technology, and whatever happens and whatever achievements happen in the space technology, it happens for the humanity and not for any specific country. So please please maintain the decorum in the chat and just enjoy the launch. You are just here to enjoy the launch, enjoy the achievement for the humanity and the greatness and the boost in the science which we can get from the space station. So yeah, we are right now under T-5 minutes from the launch, and everything is looking good. Hopefully the weather cooperates and this thing launches to the intended orbit. So to repeat that this Tianhe Core Module will be module. This will be a core module in which other parts will be docked, and the full space station construction will be completed by the end of 2022. So they have very ambitious plan, and everything they are going on with their plan also. So yeah, that is the case.
Control centers in Xi'an to control the TT&C system.
Okay.
And Chinese leaders are showing up in this control center. It's another symbol to show how important today's
Yeah.
launch
Exactly.
is.
And very interesting, that Beijing Aerospace City you were seeing is also the main training base for China's astronauts, right? A lot of Meet the Press events were actually held there.
Yeah.
It's just in the northern part of Beijing City, right?
And the
Yes.
primary function of that aerospace city is also known. All right, this is the live picture coming out from Wenchang. That is Mr. Zhang Youxia, who is in charging of this mission.
The chief commander of
Samuel
China's
Kirk
manned space
asks,
program.
how will they attach the parts in the space? Well, that's a good question. For attaching the parts in the space, they will have to dock the parts. So they will actually, they will not be actually welding or attaching the parts. They will be attaching the modules. And more specifically, they will be docking the module. So there will be an experimental module. There will be a spacecraft, Shenzhou spacecraft, in which the crew can go. Then there will be a cargo resupply mission module. So these all things will be attached together with the docking ports. So this is how they
We're
will
here in
go.
the call out, 3 minutes out, less than 3 minutes prior to liftoff. They are going through some final status check, I would assume. And quite a nerve-wracking moment, I
Right,
mean, for
it's,
the whole launch team and for all of us who are
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah, just approaching us, I'm getting excited
Yeah, a
to see
gazillion
that.
things
right.
must be going on, and everything needs to be
Exactly.
done right in an
So
orderly
to summarize, they will be going into a 400-kilometer circular orbit at an inclination of 42.5 degrees. And this rocket is a 1.5 stage rocket in which it does not have a second stage. So there will be the boosters and the core stage. That's it. So the core stage will be entering into the orbit and then deploying the spacecraft. So that is the thing to note here, which will be very exciting to see. So the space station weight is around 22 tons, and this is capable of putting 22 tons to LEO. So that is the case.
Human missions, either to the moon or beyond. So if you want to be an interplanetary species, this is the very first step.
Did we see the umbilicals pulling away? Is this about the time that the umbilicals
Maybe several
pulling away?
seconds later.
Several
So
seconds later.
Second is the final plug or the major, the main plug will be disconnected.
And that will indicate that the launch
Yes,
pad
Bob Robert, if the Falcon Heavy is used in its usable condition, reusable condition, the approximate weight it can put into the low Earth orbit is as such same only.
Yeah, we're watching this
There are
Long March
also
5B. I think that's for 335-meter diameter boosters.
yeah.
Tell
Is
us
there
more
a
about
pause,
that booster.
guys?
The booster, as you mentioned, the booster has a diameter of 3.35 meters using liquid.
We are T minus 1 minute. We are T minus 1 minute to the launch, guys. Wow, this is getting in really close.
It's liquid.
We'll just have to see whether there is any hold or not. No, we can see the hydrogen coming off the engines. That is where we will also see the rofies, which will burn off the excess hydrogen. Okay, so there was a hold in which it caused that thing here.
Yeah. Everybody's watching that.
All right, T minus 60 seconds, 1 minute prior to liftoff. Truly an incredible moment to witness.
Well, I'm getting nervous right now.
Yeah.
There are also cameras on the rotational arms to monitor the disconnection of the plugs.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, you're watching the live feed coming out from the Wenchang Spacecraft Launch Center. China is about to launch the core module of its Tianhe Space Station 40 seconds out. The Tianhe Core Module is on board that rocket you're looking at, the most powerful heavy lift rocket, the Long March 5B rocket, 30 seconds out.
Just listen in, guys. Now we are T minus 20 seconds from the launch. This is really very exciting. You will see the rofies ignition and then the side booster ignition and then the liftoff. Rofies, the center core, the side booster, and then the liftoff. T minus 14 seconds. T minus 10. 9.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine
Ignition.
ignition.
Trophies ignition.
Lift off.
And wow, booster ignition and
And
liftoff.
liftoff. What an
Wow.
incredible view. That is the sound of history. A historic space flight carrying the Tianhe Module, the core module of China's space station. That itself is history in the making, a major milestone of China's space program with the ambition to explore deep space. Not even gravity contains humanity now. And Dr. Yang, we are looking at the view of the side boosters, aren't we?
Exactly. This is a camera mounted on the core stage. You can see it's looking downward. We can see that the two
This
of
is
the
a very
four
beautiful
boosters.
rocket.
So
And
we
also
are
the flames.
looking down at the tail of the rocket, right?
How did they install that camera on that?
This is a very small camera mounted on the surface of the core module. So it does not influence the shape, the total shape of the vehicle. And also,
We can see the
don't
mark
have the
effects, guys.
aerodynamic
If you can see, we can see the mark effects here on the rocket.
You're looking at 2 out of the 4, and they run on liquid fuels. And in the next
right.
few minutes,
Wow,
these
mark
boosters
effects are
will
looking
crash
so
all the
good.
way after propellant is burned up.
Wow.
We're 69 seconds into the flight. Everything looks to be going good. The core stage will.
I haven't seen some mark effects so close in the rocket, and that was so cool.
Are we, Mr. Xu?
look.
Yes, I think the separation of the booster will be the first thing you will see, even visible with your naked eye. So the strap-on booster provided more than 90% of the propulsion
All right.
as of this moment. So once it's in the outer atmosphere, about 100 kilometers off the ground,
Mark
you'll see
effects,
the
Samuel Kirk, is nothing but the effects caused by the air. When you just go past the air, there we have this whitish clouds forming
Your screen, right?
on the
The
rocket.
rocket has pitched over a bit.
Yeah.
Originally, the rocket is shooting up vertically, but eventually it will fly in orbit, so it's going to take a turn in direction. Right,
Horizon,
Dr.
They're
Yang?
rotating and turning slightly, and now it's heading to the orbit.
Southeastward.
So to be, to repeat again, the booster uses Carolox and the core stage uses Hydrolox engine. So right now we can see the plume. So maybe after these booster separation, we won't be able to see the plume. But that does not mean it is not propulsing. So yeah.
Will be the separation of the 4 boosters just 3 minutes after the liftoff.
It
All right,
is,
that's the
separation
major
is
event
coming up, guys.
Booster separation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why is this critical to this flight, Dr. Yang?
Because separation is always very dangerous.
We can see
there are
the-
influence
wow.
of the aerodynamic forces,
See
and
the
also
clouds.
the separation itself has some shock
We
and
can
vibration
actually
to
see
the,
some
to the instrument.
scorching due to.
When are we going to hit
Is it
maximum
scorching due or the heat shielding effect?
supersonic?
I mean,
Yes, actually speaking,
And-
at this moment is already
All right,
supersonic.
have separation.
That is the engine shut off, booster separation.
Great.
You can
Wow.
hear the
Booster cut off.
cheering and the applause from command center. Looks like we've got a good separation.
We got a good start.
separation.
we got a good
Start.
separation. Although the
So you
onboard
can
camera
see
is.
The core stage is flying.
And we can see the boosters,
So
guys.
you can see
Wow.
also this
Is
is
that the ellipse of
camera.
Earth?
Oh, this is inside the payload fairing.
Okay,
Okay.
so next up is
And that's the core
payload
module.
fairing
Jettisoning.
separation. Okay.
Okay, that is the core module that we're watching at.
We can see there are some lights inside the payload fairing. And also, you see on the right of the window, the screen is the 3D animation. This 3D animation is based on the real date downloaded from the vehicle, the position, the attitude, and the condition of the engines.
So that was actually
And
based on
fairing
what's on-
separation
The fairing-
confirmed.
Jettison.
It
Another round of applause.
It's ejected.
A good separation again. And you are watching at the dotted yellow lines, right? What are they? These are data links from ground
Yes,
tracking
that shows
stations, isn't it?
that in which station is connected to the vehicle, either uplink or downlink. So you see, we have stations in our Xisha Islands, and also we have the space tracking ships in the Pacific Ocean.
And now the Tianhe Core Module is actually exposed in space, right?
That's right.
Is that what we're looking at the left side of the screen?
Yes,
After the fairing jettison.
So this is the camera mounted also on the core stage and looking forward. not like the last camera we mentioned. So you can see.
And
part
guys,
of-
again repeating, there is no second stage. This is the only the core stage, which will be going all the way to the orbit and then deploying the spacecraft. So this is the case which you will be seeing.
We can solve this rocket is just to throw away the stage 1 and stage 2 and just to have a very smaller parts to get to enter that space and enter that orbit. But in this case, the Long March 5B, there's going to be a huge core stage flying in the outer space.
Yes, it's going to be a single burn. I think once you have the separation of the strap-on booster by the pyrotechnics, we also have the separation of the fairing. So now it's flying right into the direction and the altitude it requires. So once the engine shut down, it will have a small adjustment to the appropriate inclinations and orbit, and it will be a separation of the core stage with the Tianhe. So once that is happened, it means the success of this mission, of this launching phase.
And,
Right. And I think it's going to be more complicated than the multiple stage rocket because you got a bigger stage.
Exactly.
You got a main engine that to create is 140 tons of thrust, and you stop them suddenly. It's like I think it's like the high-speed train have an emergency stop. Can they just get into this orbit properly?
You just mentioned a very important fact. Before you see that Long March 5B is the only rocket in the world that only have a 1.5 stage to come into orbit. So there are many great challenges. For instance, as you mentioned, we use the two YF-77 rocket engines in this core stage, which have a thrust of 50 tons. That means that the total thrust of the core stage is 100 tons. It's very big for when it is shut down to come into the orbit, because you see that we have very strict requirement in the accuracy of the orbit. Well, for this accuracy, the smaller the thrust is, it will be easier. But you see that the thrust is rather big. And at this moment of the shutdown, the core stage, the tank is almost empty. So it is very difficult for us to keep the accuracy. That is a great challenge when we developing this Long March 5B launch vehicle.
That is really an extraordinary view. I think that's the Earth on the left side
Yes.
we're seeing, right? That bright light you're watching now. And the rocket is flying over the Pacific Ocean, right? It's actually
Now
flying
the
eastward.
boosters, Miko is coming up, guys, in 4:48 seconds.
Because the inclination of the orbit will be 41 to 42 degrees, while the latitude
And,
of the Wenchang Satellite Launch
we
Center
have
is 19 degrees. So we need the direction because
Should be
launch
having the
azimuth.
cutoff,
Launch
okay.
azimuth is going to the southeastwards.
450 seconds into
Yeah,
the flight.
Mr. Xu, I think we're expected to see the next stage, probably to cut off the main engine. Am I right?
Yes, shutdown of the main engine and the separation. So, but once we reach that altitude and velocity, we will have that happen. So this liquid kerosene and liquid hydrogen oxygen engine will continue to burn, and it will have a very high efficiency once in outer space, unlike in atmosphere. So the advantage of hydrogen and oxygen engine will be fully displayed in outer space.
Did we
cut off.
heard the engine cut off?
The engine
And
has
the
been cut off.
spacecraft deployment. Wow.
Operation is ongoing,
And we can see that already the space station is taking control. It is. Did you see the RCS thrusters working? Wow.
And you can see from the screen on the left side is the Earth, so bright because it is
Wow.
under the sunshine.
wow.
Wow, a good spacecraft separation. Tianhe Core Module now
We
is
can see
flying
the
around
aft and the
7
forward
orbits.
docking
It's
ports and
already
everything
in initial
here.
orbit. Theoretically speaking, the perigee should be about 170 kilometers, and the apogee should be about nearly 400 kilometers.
Wow, you can see quite a relief
people
for
are
the launch
celebrating
team.
that. It's a very excited day.
They have worked years and years on it. I've seen some interview from the Launchpad team. They're saying
Wow.
it feels like this Tianhe Core Module is like their child. So this launch feels like really sending off your child. They are excited for it, but they are, they feel kind of sad. It's a mixed feeling, sad to let go.
They
but
spent
also,
decades on
yeah.
working for that.
I mean, today's launch
you can
was
see
so beautiful, guys.
have they started this
I can't just tell you. I mean, wow.
You mean
It
the
was
whole manned
so
space
beautiful.
program?
Yeah, this.
We just started the manned space program since 1992. It is called 921.
921.
The solar panels are right now retracted, Semmelkirk, and we can right now just see the space station coasting to the coasting in space, basically. The core module. This is the core module. The first part is the node cabin, in which the docking parts are there. Then we have the life support, in which the crew can sleep, and then they have the resource pod, in which they can dine in, they can exercise, or maybe conduct some experiments here. So yeah, that is the case. And then we have the rear docking port also. And the thing which you can see here with the railing on it in the node cabin, the front part of it, that is the EVA airlock,
50
where
minutes time.
astronauts or taikonauts can come and do the spacewalks.
So what are we, still talk to us about what are we expected to see. You talked about antenna deployment. Why is that taking so long to deploy this?
You see that before this, as I mentioned, we must keep the station stable. Usually the rocket itself, the separation is very slight, but there still have some disturbance, maybe several degrees per second. So after separation, the propulsion system of the station will start and use the small engines to reduce the angular velocity to a very low level. So at this moment, we can call that we have set up the attitude of the vehicle. And then we'll check some critical subsystem, for instance, such as the TTNC, such as the power supply and other critical systems.
Thank you so much, Rob GTI 180, for that 10 euro super chat. Congrats, China, and great work, Rocket again. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and it really helps the channel to stay alive. Thank you so much for appreciating the work.
We're watching this Tianhe Core Module is entering the orbit, which is at the altitude of 400 kilometers above our head. Tell us more about this orbit.
Well, I just notice a little bit of the tumbling of the station at the separation. So the small adjustment is very much important to readjust the orientation of the Tianhe station before deployment of the solar array. The separation seems to be, a little bit disturbed, or some
Exactly.
effects on the attitude of the Tianhe. So I'm sure that the ground crew are busy controlling the Tianhe station to the right
Wow,
altitude
man,
and
they
the
admitted
right directions, using the small propulsions that is for orbit adjustment. And then we will have the right angle to deploy the solar array. And then once that is done, we will establish a long-term communication with the ground, and the TTNC crew will have a good communication with the module. So that will be unlocking of the stations and preparation for docking with the cargo ship. The cargo ship is very important for fueling the station, because we don't have too much fuel on board the Tianhe segment. So we need the cargo ship to go ahead to supply the fuel and docking with the fueling before we have the crew on board.
So we're going to have some adjustment burns, and you are looking at a replay of the moment of liftoff.
I mean, this view is just
and
mesmerizing.
Normally, launch providers and launch agencies, they would have a simulation like what we just saw, the 3D animation that takes in all of the live data, that does a visual representation.
So guys, yes, that was the fact when the spacecraft was separated from the core stage. We could see that the RCS thrusters were very active just after the separation. That does not happen, and the deployment of the spacecraft was also not very even. I mean, there was a disturbance. The spacecraft was actually moving just after the deployment. That does not happen normally, and that's why it is right now tumbling also. We can see the earth view, which is actually changing, and all those things happening. But not to worry, this could be a problem with the deployment of the station, but since they have the control of the station, and the station have its own propulsion system, have its own RCS thrusters, roll control and orientation sensors and everything, so they will be able to control it and get it into a right orientation, and then they will deploy the solar panel. So this is the thing which they will be doing right now.
This is because you see that outside the Earth there is a radio belt called the Van Allen radiation belt. The bottom of this radiation belt is about 600 or 700 kilometers. So if our spacecraft is higher than this altitude, the astronauts will be influenced by the radiation. So that's not good for the health of the astronauts. On the other hand, if the orbit is too low, for instance, less than 300 kilometers, the aerodynamic drag will greatly influence the orbit. We will need more propellants to keep the orbit of the spacecraft. So it should not be so high and not should be so low. So in the years before, our Shenzhou spaceship and our Tianghe laboratory usually in the operation orbit about 350 kilometers high. And for this station and the International Space Station, they can work in the altitude about 400 kilometers.
As we speak, the Tianhe Core Module is flying in
Just
orbit
love
now,
this
16
stream.
minutes into the
I
flight.
mean,
Everything continues
wow,
to look
they
good.
have so much information about the technical details and everything, and he explained the Von Allen belt's consequences and effects on the station very good and perfectly, I must say. So yeah,
we normally design the vehicle in such a fashion that the dropping of the what we call expendable launch vehicle parts are not affecting the normal life of people. So those drop zones will be in deep oceans in the Pacific. So the first 4 strapped-on boosters will be dropped near.
yes, you can see the cloud forming within the boosters if we can see in the replay.
Southern Pacific in areas that is not habited by people. So this is also the purpose of the Hainan launch site, so that we affect the people's life.
So as you said, this is an expandable rocket, but I understand that China has experimented actually on reusable rocket, right? Tell us about that.
Exactly,
When is
they
that
have
going
the
to be
Long March
implemented?
8 rocket.
We're doing a lot of
reusable.
experiments on the reusable launch vehicles. We have also seen the international effort in particular SpaceX can bring the rockets back and also even recycle the fairing. We're looking at the possibilities because there are special technologies involved in the reusable of rocket engines. Some of the engines are once you have the materials you use are for single time only, but the technologies as SpaceX using the Mullins engine, which has been demonstrated on the space shuttle, and the technology has been transferred from NASA to SpaceX. So there are many factors affecting the reuse of engines, the reliabilities as well as the cost-effective factors, whether we use the reusable or we use single expendable, because the reusable technology also requires you to put on more fuels and.
Okay, we also have the SpaceX going in with the Falcon 9.
Analysis, but don't go away. We're going to come back to you in just a bit.
can very
You're
well
now
see
watching our
that
special
also,
coverage
guys.
of China's space exploration. A Long March 5B
Let me
rocket
just switch over
has
to that.
just
We are very
launched
much
Tianhe
close
Core
to the
Module into space
liftoff
from
of the
Wenchang
Falcon
Spacecraft
9.
Launch Site in Hainan Province. And let's now go to our reporter Ning Hong, who is live at the.
We'll come back here. Just a sec.
Liftoff at T0. The Starlink payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no
And
issues
there
on the
you
rocket.
go.
Weather is still looking good for T0 today, and the range has cleared the surrounding ground, water, and
We'll switch over,
airspace.
man.
And
There
are
are so many
green
launches
for
today.
launch.
So yes, guys, if the boosters are recycled, then they land on the drone ship, of course. I'm still yes, Steven. For the Long March 8, they are using a reusable rocket. They are making it as a reusable rocket, and they will be, doing that there.
There's that call out that LOX load is now complete.
This is the SpaceX Falcon 9 mission, I mean the Starlink mission basically, and this is just happening here. So we'll see this launch and then we'll go back to the Chinese space station coverage. I'm not complete with that, but I have to watch this launch also, so that's why we are here.
Venting, you can see from that LOX line. Coming up here in about 10 seconds or so, Falcon 9 will go into startup, and the first and second stage will begin to pressurize for launch.
We are T-minus 1 minute until the launch, guys.
There's that call out. The autonomous internal flight computers have now taken over the launch countdown.
This is so
Stage
cool.
2, press for flight.
Falcon 9, Starlink, LD is go for launch.
We are
And a
go
great
for the
call
launch.
out. We are go for launch here shortly, meaning all systems are ready for T0.
T-minus 30 seconds.
At T-minus 30 seconds, let's listen into the terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes our stack of Starlink satellites out into space.
T-minus
Stage 1, press for flight.
15
T-minus
seconds.
15 seconds.
Falcon 9
T-minus
is
30.
configured for flight.
12, 11, 10.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Ignition.
And liftoff.
And
Godspeed, Apollo
liftoff.
11 micropilot Collins. May the pursuit of exploration live on.
Wow. See this beautiful sun
Vehicles pitching downrange.
going into space
Stage 1,
in the
propulsion
night
is
sky.
nominal.
And there we have the onboard camera views. We can see the engines running. And right now the
Falcon
next
9
event
has successfully
is
lifted off
Max
from
Q.
Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying our stack of Starlink satellites to orbit. The next event coming up here shortly is Max Q. Max Q is the maximum aerodynamic pressure that the vehicle sees on ascent. So
And
throttling
Vehicle's
down.
supersonic.
You can
Throttling
see
down
that
those engines
the
helps us pass through
plume
that
coming out
large
of the
structural
engine
load.
is actually climbing up the rocket, and that is you will see that happening here, as you can see, because that happens because there is a low pressure area there, and
Maximum aerodynamic
the plumes tend to
There's that
go
call out that we passed
at
through
that
Max Q.
area, and the Falcon 9 is
About a
designed to
minute,
handle
we'll have
that.
3 events happening within seconds of each other. The first will be MECO, or main engine cutoff, followed by stage separation, and SES1, or second engine start 1. Now, MECO is where we shut down all 9 of the engines on the first stage.
MVAC engine chill has started.
Just to call out that the MVAC chill has begun on that second stage engine. So for MECO, we shut down all 9 of the engines, and that slows the vehicle down in preparation for that second event, which is stage separation. Stage separation is where the first stage separates from the second stage, and first stage will begin its journey back home, heading towards our drone ship Just Read the Instructions, while stage 2 continues on its journey with the third event, SES1, or second engine start 1. And that is where we light up that MVAC engine, and it propels the second stage along with the Starlink satellites towards its drop-off orbit.
And now the MECO is coming up, in which the main engine will be cut off and the stage separation will happen. This is the internal view of the interstage of this rocket. And MECO, we have the MECO
MECO.
and stage sep.
Stage
There
separation.
you go. Second stage should they be igniting, and we
And
have the
ignition.
ignition.
We had MECO and stage separation. On your left-hand screen is a view from the first stage. On your right-hand screen is a view of that second stage engine. You kind of saw a glow of that T-tub, that green flame, when we
And we
ignited
can
that
see the
engine.
effects of the
Coming up on
plumes
Tianhe
coming
before
to the and hitting the first stage. That the glowing of the grid fins was because of that.
Confirmation
The
on your
fairing
screen
separation
that we have
confirmed.
Successfully deployed those fairing halves. And as a reminder, we will be attempting to recover the fairing halves today with a contracted recovery vessel named Sheila Bordelon.
Okay,
On your
that
left-hand
is
screen, it is a
interesting.
little dark over there on the East Coast because it is nighttime, but we did get some glimpses of the sunlight hitting those grid fins. See if we can get some more views of that in a little bit.
Right now, the second
As
stage is
stage
propelling.
2,
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
As stage 2 takes our Starlink satellites to their targeted drop-off orbit, stage 1 will make its way back to Earth by executing 2 burns. The first is the entry burn, and that's where we light up 3 of the 9 M1D engines. And this will help to slow the stage down as it re-enters back into the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. The second of those 2 burns for that first stage is called the landing burn. And this is where a single engine, the center engine, will reignite and bring the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to touch down on that drone ship. As a reminder, we are attempting to land on Just Read the Instructions tonight. And those M1D engines do have a thrust of 190,000 pounds. So that lighting up that one single engine slows the entire vehicle down just enough to touch down on that drone ship.
Exactly. So the
Stage
thing
2 is still looking good, and what you're seeing on your screen is a
we can see the telemetry of the stage 1 also. Right now the speed is increasing, we can see, which means that it has actually reached the apogee, and now it is falling back to the Earth, and it will be reigniting for the 3 of the Merlin engines, which will slow the vehicle down so that it does not re-enter the atmosphere at very high speeds, which can actually damage the booster. That is the reason why it is done, and we'll see that in a bit now.
We're just about a minute away from the next event on that first stage. That'll be the entry burn. Again, Starlink satellites are going to a LEO orbit, or low Earth orbit, about 550 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Now, most satellites are at 36,000 kilometers, or in a geo or geostationary orbit.
We can see the RCS puffs coming out of. We will be able to see that.
Roughly 30 seconds away from that entry burn beginning.
Right now we can't see, but hopefully we'll be able to see that, the RCS puffs coming out of the first stage booster.
And on your left-hand screen, there is the first stage. It is a little dark. You can see some glimpses of the nitrogen gas burst that you see there.
Here we can see those RCS puffs. Entry burn is coming up. Those are the mark effects, and where we go.
And you can see on your left-hand screen, the entry burn has begun as those 3 engines light up that view for us. This entry burn will last about 20 seconds long.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And that concludes.
Stage 2 continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
Hopefully we get the views of the first stage till the time it lands. That would be so awesome.
The next event coming up will be in about a minute from now. That'll be the landing burn, the start of the landing burn on the first stage. And what you're looking at live on your screen is a view from the second stage, looking aft at the MVAC engine. That MVAC
and guys
engine
who are just wondering what we are watching Starlink and we are not watching the Chinese Space Station. Chinese Space Station launch has been conducted successfully. We'll switch over back to the Space Station webcast, but right now this was going also, so I thought this would be a treat to watch.
Stage 1 transonic.
Still getting good call-outs on that first stage.
5 kilometers. Speed is decreasing rapidly right now because
about
of the
15
thick
seconds or
air
so
hitting
away
on
from
it.
that landing burn beginning on the first stage. Stage 2 still looking good.
2.1 kilometers.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Landing burn started. We
Landing
have the
burn has
views.
begun. Let's watch and see if this Falcon 9 can land on our drone ship. Just read the
We
instructions.
can see the view.
And a really cool
Wow.
onboard view.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And there
Stage
you can
1 landing
see
burn.
the first stage Falcon 9 has landed has landed for its 7th time. This marks our 81st successful recovery of an orbital class rocket, and again, the 7th flight and 7th landing of this booster. And then we heard a good call out for SECO.
Wow,
that second
man.
engine cutoff.
The landing is always a treat to watch.
Nominal
And this
parking orbit
has
insertion.
become so
And a good
routine
orbital
now.
insertion.
Loss of signal, Cape.
Now stage 2 is going to coast in this orbit for the next 35 minutes or so. So while that happens, we'll keep you posted on where we are in the
Okay.
coast phase. We'll see you back here at T plus 45 minutes for a second stage relay.
Okay, we can now switch over back to the space station coverage. Let me just do that, guys.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
Yes, we are live.
See the difference.
I think they have ended the webcast also. What?
Welcome back to our special coverage on the biggest space news here in China.
Yes, a Long March 5B rocket has lifted off Tianhe Core Module into space. And from Wenchang Satellite Launch Center in South China's Hainan province, Tianhe is the foundation elements of China's planned orbital space station, which will be joined by another 2 experiment capsules to make up the whole station by the end of next year. And China has another 10 major space missions to be launched by then, as it aims to complete the construction of its own space station.
That's right. A space station is a giant orbiting lab in the outer space of the Earth. And currently, there is only one international space station which China has no access to, having been barred involvement by the U.S. Congress over issues of, quote, national security. And besides this reason, why China is building its own space station? CGTN's Wule explains.
Okay.
Here on Earth, an apple will fall due to gravity's influence, but in outer space, it floats like this. But how might this apple mutate in a microgravity environment? What might happen when an astronaut eats this apple? China has sent 11 astronauts into space since 2003. During their time in space, the astronauts had carried out a variety of experiments, but their time for each visit was limited. China is aiming to remedy this by building a brand new space station by the end of 2022, which is expected to remain in space for over 10 years, allowing astronauts who spend time there to engage in longer physical, biological, and cosmological experiments. As for experiments, Chinese scientists are interested in growing plants. These flowers and vegetables were growing from seeds mutated in space. The effects of living in space are also of concern for scientists. Knowing how to guarantee the ability for astronauts to have a healthy long-term stay in space could pave the way for future space travel. China's new space station won't just be for Chinese scientists, but also for global scientists as well. So far, a total of 9 projects proposed by 17 countries, including Germany, France, and Italy, have been selected for the first round of experiments to be conducted in this new space lab. This new facility is expected to open up a brand new chapter in human space exploration.
Exactly.
Wule, CGTN.
Guys, don't think this space station as a competitor to the ISS, but it is actually a friend to the ISS, and ISS will get a breather and people will get, you know, more launch opportunities, more opportunities to do experiments in space. So every time when some country achieves something in space, it ultimately benefits the humanity. So that is the thing.
By India and Russia. 3 related to microgravity fluid physics and combustion. One of these is proposed by India and Belgium, another Italy and Kenya, and another by China and Japan. 2 experiments are about space life science and biotechnology. A proposal by Norway, France, the Netherlands, and Belgium involves tumors in space. Another by Peru and Spain is on the effects of microgravity on disease-causing bacteria. There's also a proposal on Earth science by Mexico and a space technology proposal by Saudi Arabia.
Now let's
Oh
talk
man,
with.
I didn't know that India is also collaborating with China and doing some experiments on this space station. Wow, that would be cool thing to watch actually.
Scientific experiments have been selected to fly on
Yes,
China's
Samuel
space
Kirk,
station.
I was also very surprised to see
The
that.
name of your project is Tumors in Space. Can you talk about your programs and why these experiments have
But the thing is that those countries have proposed those ideas. They have not been selected yet. I think so that is the case.
Experiment ever conducted in outer space. Chinese scientists on a previous Shenzhou mission have shown that spaceflight may slow or stop the growth of cancer. The fact is, there is no cure for cancer. It affects everyone all around the world. We've done everything we can on the ground to cure cancer. Now it's time to cure cancer, but in outer space.
Wow, let's very look forward to any of the results coming from your research. And what was the selection process like for experiments to be included in China's space station?
The selection process was of the highest international standards. We underwent several rounds of scientific and technical review. Working with the China Manned Space Agency has been excellent, but also working with the United Nations gives us some confidence that we are accessing space for peaceful purposes and for the benefit of all humanity.
Yes, and why did you choose China Space Station as,
So,
as your
guys, this was this what was I was talking about. I mean, did you just see that they actually said that they will be learning about the cancer treatments and how those cancer cells grow in space. So ultimately, again, I am repeating, ultimately these things tend to help humanity. This is space is not just for any country, specific country. Space is for humanity. And okay, sorry, it will always be like that. Sorry for the disturbance, but yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. LaRose from the University of Oslo. The foreign astronauts done global cooperation on scientific...
And talking about, I don't know whether my mic was muted or not, but I saw the India's proposal also for the space station, and I was very surprised to see that, but we'll see whether they will select it or not. I think those are just the proposals. They have not selected any as such countries, so we'll have to see what will happen.
Space agencies, such as Deutsche Aerospace, the Italian Space Agency, Aerospatiale, and Pakistan's Space Agency. We and the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs carried out cooperation on applications concerning the use of China's space station. We signed an agreement. In the early stage, we jointly selected the first batch of projects to collaborate on. There are now 9 projects to be participated in by 17 countries, who have officially confirmed their participation in scientific experiments in China's space station. In the future, there will surely be foreign astronauts participating in China's spaceflight, working and living on our space station. In addition, some foreign astronauts are already participating in Chinese flights and are already learning Chinese.
And joining us in the studio is Professor Yang Guang from China Aerospace Science and Industry Cooperation. Great to have you with us, Mr. Yang, as always. So let's talk about it. Now, in 2019, China announced 9 projects from 19 countries that were selected from 42 applications, making them the first batch of scientific experiments for China's space station. What are the standards for the selection of these experiments?
Well, you see that international...
So guys, if you are talking about the Artemis mission, yes, NASA is doing very well in the Artemis mission, but China is not behind. China is collaborating with Russia to have a permanent base on the moon. So they are actually doing something. NASA is also planning for the permanent base. China and Russia collaborating for the same. So ultimately, again, there will be a breather for both of them. They will not compete. I will say they will collaborate, and we'll have a boost in the science because of this.
Standard racks inside the station, and also we have standard interface outside station for the experiments in outer space. So the experiment design must meet the requirements of these standards. And also there is a very important factor is the period or the schedule. So the development and the design of the the experiment must not have the confliction with other operations of the station. And also there are other limits such as the communication, the downlink limits, or the data limited, and also the mass and volume of the experimental instruments.
Now also joining us in the studio via the video link is Mr. Xu Yansong, the Director General in Asia Pacific Space Cooperation Organization, and welcome both. Now this is a question for both of you. What are the kinds of experiments conducted in the space station? Earlier we just talked to this researcher from the University of Oslo. She just talked about his research on the cancer and tumors in space. What other experiments that we can see in the space station?
I think the best environment of the space station is microgravity environment. In that station environment, we can do a lot of things that we cannot do on Earth because of the gravity. For example, we have done this before and many times using the recovered capsule, which is the crystallization of proteins. This is also for medical breakthroughs and cure of cancer and other disease. And in the same time, we're also doing a lot of things such as biotechnologies, and also space environmental gravity combustions and aerodynamics and microgravity testing for new materials.
Says it may take so much time for the China to build its own space station. That would not be the case. This will be the construction for the space station will be very rapid. By the end of 2022, they are aiming to complete the whole space station, and the ISS took around 10 years. Although ISS is very big, this is 1/5 the size of the ISS, but still, in just 1 year, they are 1.5 mainly. They are completing their whole space station. That is very cool.
Space station impressed you the most?
Well, you may notice that there are multiple racks inside the station, either in the core module or in the experimental modules. Each rack will be dedicated into a certain area, and also there are several racks engaged in which can provide service for multiple fields. You see, that's the most thing impressed me is the microgravity physics, especially the microgravity fluid physics, and also the combustion phenomena in microgravity field. There are also some other research, as Mr. Xu has mentioned, the biological or the medical research on the influence of microgravity and radiation to the human cells, even the cell of cancers, and also other creatures. What impressed me is some engineering research. You see, that's what we just have mentioned is scientific research. There are also other research on engineering. For instance, the newly designed instruments, devices, even chips, the influence of the outer space environment to them, and to develop new technologies for the future vehicles, even the vehicles to go deep into the space.
And we're now 40 minutes into Tianhe space flight. We're now standing by for another major move by the Tianhe Core Module. It currently is flying in low Earth orbit now, and it's going to open solar panel wings shortly. And when that happens, we're going to bring it to you in full. And Mr. Xu, China Space Station weighs much lighter actually than the International Space Station. How can it meet the international standards?
Well, the international standards are not done by its weight and size. Because the International Space Station is built by multiple countries. The beginning phase, it was 14 countries, including European space agencies, Italian space agency, France, Russians, and US. The biggest segment, and also Japan. The biggest segment, of course, is US and Russia, and also it comprises multiple segments of the fuselage.
This is the resupply mission, the cargo resupply mission, which will be docked to the station.
Segment also was open for international cooperation in the region. So a lot of countries are participating.
And then this is the Shenzhou spacecraft, which will actually carry the astronauts, taikonauts, I must say, to the station.
Professor Yang mentioned the different rackings, and also externally with external experimental facilities. And the station is also capable of deploying small satellites. So once you bring a satellite, mostly CubeSats, into the station, you can have the satellites deployed.
The video which you are actually right now seeing is the thing which will happen during the construction of this space station. Right now, you are actually seeing the construction of the space station and all the test and everything.
So the Chinese space station is a breakthrough for the Chinese space community, and also number of experiments are recruited and called for announcement of opportunities in the international community. And we'll also receive very interesting proposals like from Thailand. Thailand just mentioned about 3D printing for astronauts' food. So today, if you fancy for a steak, you can go to the 3D printer to print your steak, and tomorrow maybe another Chinese food. So it can also be done in space. So this is also one fascinating areas that we can look into in microgravity environment, and especially in confined space like the space station.
All right, Mr. Xu, Dr. Yang, stand by. We're going to come back to you in just a bit. China is launching the core module of its space station today, and the station is expected to become operational by the year 2022 and will be the second of its kind to be present in space. Currently, the only space station in orbit is the ISS, or International Space Station, a multinational project that's been operating for 21 years. Now, the ISS is the largest artificial object in space and has been hosting hundreds of astronauts from different countries. Let's now take a close-up look.
The International Space Station is the largest single structure humans have ever put into space. Its components were constructed and assembled between 1998 and 2011. In 1993, the United States and Russia agreed to merge their separate space station plans into a single facility, with assistance and components from a multinational consortium including Canada, Japan, and 11 member states of the European Space Agency. The first component of the International Space Station was launched on a Russian rocket in 1998. More pieces were added after that, and 2 years later, the station was ready to host astronauts. The first crew arrived on November 2nd, 2000, and humans have been staying there ever since. The space station flies at an average altitude of 400 kilometers above Earth. In one day, the ISS travels about the distance it would take to go from Earth to the Moon and back.
Well, this is not the inclination though. It is not equatorial orbit.
It has 2 bathrooms, a gymnasium, and a big bay window. It weighs 391,000 kilograms and is big enough to cover an American football field, including the end zones. It also has science labs from the United States, Russia, Japan, and Europe. The International Space Station is making discoveries not possible on Earth and helping us push further into space.
Every single day, we are answering big questions about Earth and about space, about where we came from and about where we're going. But the other thing that we're doing is we're learning more questions to ask.
The Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer 02 has been looking for evidence of dark matter from outside of the space station since 2011. The one-year mission conducted between 2015 and 2016 was the first of a series of extended duration research missions to develop a better understanding of how each human system adapts to
Guys,
the
I
space
am
flight
again
environment.
repeating, just maintain some decorum in the chat. Everything which you are right now seeing is for the humanity and not for the country. And also, China is actually very much active in the space business, and surely they will pose some competition to NASA in coming years if they progress the way they are progressing right now. So yeah, that is the case. China's space agency is very big right now.
Orbited or recycled for future space stations in orbit. But humans will not stop exploring the unknown and the endless universe.
Let's continue our discussion with 2 of our guests. Dr. Yan, compared to the International Space Station, what are some of the new features that we can expect from the station of China, that China's building?
Well, you see that the International Space Station is the 4th generation of space stations compared with the Mir station, because Mir is the 3rd generation which adopted a modular design. And based on this, the International Space Station has a very big truss. The main truss has a length of 108 meters, and we can see 8 pairs of huge solar panels, which have two-dimensional SADA or solar array drive assembly. Well, our station, as Mr. Xu and you mentioned, it is much smaller than the International Space Station. This is because you see that we are still a developing country, so we don't choose to have such a big station, and we only build a station which can meet meet our requirement of high technology development and scientific research. So although this station is much smaller than the International Space Station, but the efficiency of the station is higher than the International Space Station. It also has the huge solar panels which have two-dimensional SADA or solar arrays. So it can rotate in two directions and provide very powerful electricity, usually higher than 27 kilowatts to the station. So it can perform many research. You see, as I mentioned, there are more than 20 standard racks in our station. Not very, you see that only the International Space Station only have 40 racks also. So we can do a lot of things and more scientific research than the mere space station. Even you see that in this initial stage, we only have three modules, less than the half of the mass of Mir, but we can do more scientific research than the Mir. So we also belong to the 4th generation of space stations.
Wow.
And Dr. Xu, over to you. The International
those facts
Space
are
Station
so,
has been in service since 2000. It is expected to retire
good
until
to hear.
2024, unless plans from the participating countries, mainly US and Russia, change. But do you think the China Space Station can somehow replace the ISS? Because if the ISS retires, the China's space station will be the only one left in space that is functional.
Well, I think the ISS is not going to be completely retired or burned out in outer space atmosphere because the International Space Station is a huge complex and it still retains its value in outer space. So the retirement by 2024 means that the intergovernmental mechanism is disassembled so that this station can be either commercialized or separated so that national support would no longer be available. So the Chinese space station will be an important supplement to the International Space Station with a continued effort from the government support and also a continued presence of human beings in outer space. I think the International Space Station is seeing some agings, but also it's still vital for future missions, including the moon missions. They're doing a lot of experiments on the International Space Station in preparation of human lunar missions as well as Mars missions. So the International Space Station remains an important infrastructure with a substantial supplement of the Chinese station. So both are going to work in parallel and for a period of time, I think.
And Mr. Xu, you mentioned about burnout procedure of the International Space Station. According to the Outer Space Treaty, the United States and Russia are legally responsible for all modules they have launched. So can you tell us a little bit more details about what are their disposal plans after the ISS retires?
Well, that's a very good question you mentioned about the Tiangong 1 and Tiangong 2, as well as the International Space Station burnout. Tiangong 1 was uncontrolled reentry, so it was very close to a damaged area, but fortunately it landed in inhabited areas, so it was very safe reentry. On board the International Space Station, if they want to burn up some of the segments, they can do it in a controlled manner. They can drop those cargoes or the segments they don't want to use anymore. They can re-enter into space, and they can design the trajectory so that it will drop in the Pacific or some areas that is less populated or even no populations, so it can drop into the ocean. But some of the hardcore stuff would sustain the burn. For example, the glass, the ceramics, and some of the metals that they can really withstand the re-entry of burning. Unlike other materials, will disseminate and fragment it in the re-entry process. So some of them will survive. So we have to design the process in such a fashion that we have joint observation of the ground facilities, and it will drop in the same area, a safe area that is not inhabited by human activities. So the dropping of the International Space Station is not being planned at this moment. I think the first thing is to look at the value of the International Space Station, the amount of money it costs to maintain the station altitude and the control of the station, as well as the commercial aspect of the International Space Station.
And Dr. Yang, I want to get your take on the international collaboration, right? China is saying that it welcomes collaboration on the Chinese space station from scientists from all over the world, but the level of international collaboration that the CSS will receive, according to an analyst, will be unclear due to geopolitical hurdles, noting that U.S. law places very heavy restrictions on NASA scientists cooperating directly with China. So how are you looking at this, the prospects of international collaboration?
Well, you see that according to the white book of China aerospace activities and also according to the announcement of China Manned Space Agency, the international cooperation will be one major task of our space station. There are 4 levels. The first is joint experiment. As you see, it's extended.
That's the replay. That's the replay there. And also talk to us about this telescope that we're going to be joining the Tianhe Core Module. A report says the Hubble Space Telescope will last through the mid-2020s. What are some of the significant contributions it has made to the study of outer space?
What you mentioned is the Xuntian module. Originally, it is part of our station. It is the original experimental module 2. But finally, we decided to let the Xuntian to fly independently. So the Mengtian takes the place of the Xuntian as the experimental module 2 of our station. But the Xuntian will stay in the same orbit of our Tiangong Space Station. In certain cases, it can be docked to the station, and the astronauts can keep some maintenance and repairing tasks. So this is very convenient. Comparing with Hubble Space Telescope, you see that the aperture of the main mirror of our Xuntian is 2 meters. The diameter is 2 meters, only a little bit smaller than the Hubble Space Telescope. But with the new technologies, we can do more things than Hubble. And the most important, it's much easier than our Xuntian to be repaired or be maintained by the space station, rather than the space shuttle taking the maintenance and repairing task of the Hubble.
Yeah, what kind of the international cooperation do you guys expected to see in the future when China completed its construction of the space station? Because we just talked to Dr. LaRose. I think that was a great example to illustrate how important this kind of international cooperation is in this era of space exploration. Mr. Xu.
Well, I think international cooperation is very important for all missions in China. We have also very prominent mission of the Chang'e missions. The Chang'e 4, as a redundancy of Chang'e 3, has collected 5 or 6 countries to put on board the Chang'e 4 instruments. For example, the neutral detectors from Sweden Institute of Space, and also
webcast
many
is
of
very informative.
from Europeans
I
Chinese missions.
have to rarely speak something, and if you just listen in, you will actually get to know more about the Chinese space agencies and their achievements. I mean, they are seriously into the space business, and everything there is going very well.
Community, in particular,
So,
Built and Road
yeah.
initiative can also benefit from
Just
space
listening to
activities
the what these guys are saying, they really know their stuff, and you will get some very cool information.
going to that direction of collecting proposals from those countries. So international cooperation is an essential part of the space activity in China.
And these experiments, space technologies we were talking about, Mr. Xu, they have benefited humanity a great deal, right? For instance, the intelligent control technology developed for rockets has been applied in construction of smart ports, communities, factories. Diapers were initially designed for astronauts in space. Talk to us about these benefits.
Yeah, space technology has been derived in many areas, but also, for example, the CT scanners, as well as many MRI, medical imaging facilities, are also technologies that are derived from space technology. So we see a lot of space benefiting our daily life. For example, the communications that we use for TV broadcasting, overseas communications, navigation on our cell phones, or even in the car, that we use almost daily and rely more and more on it, has been taken for granted, because those are space technologies that are benefiting our daily lives. There's a saying that if you switch off the space for one day, you won't tell the weather, you won't have a navigation, you won't know your way back, and you won't communicate anyway. So it's back to the Stone Age, basically.
Exactly.
So space technology are very important for our daily life, even though we take it for granted, because we can't see it visibly with our eyes, but we do feel it and we do use it.
Yeah, we're now about a little more than an hour into this flight, and we're still standing by for that solar panel deployment.
Yes.
Wow,
And you're looking at this
two
clock
guys
right there in
actually
the command center.
know their stuff, and they are actually spitting out some important facts out there.
And Dr. Yang, the European Space Agency is cooperating with China on the space station, and there's also support from the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs.
These rockets which you are right now seeing are invented in China, fully in China only. Initially it was, you know, those engines were, the technology were taken by from Russians, and then they improved on it, and then they actually made their own rocket from their own technology. So yeah.
From support by utilizing their ground stations all over the world. Because you know that although China is a big country, but still very small comparing to the whole globe. Well, during the flight missions before we have our Tianhe data relay satellite, the coverage of our ground stations are still limited. So we really need the support from other countries to get the ground stations, the data link from the stations of other countries. And also, as Mr. Xu has mentioned, we have payloads from other countries. Especially, I should mention that you know that Shenzhou 8 is a manned mission to test the rendezvous and docking technology. But on board the Shenzhou 8, there is a joint experiment between China and Germany called Singbox, which performs some biological experiment in space. So these have very great achievements and have benefit to the science, to the space science, and also to the benefit of the whole human society. So in the future, you see that the international
We have the
cooperation,
deployment of the solar panels, guys.
Major trend in the whole world, not only in China but also in other most space-capable nations. So we should do this more in the future.
Well, Mr. Xu, I got us a question, because this project has been involved so many international organizations inside, including the UN Office of Outer Space Affairs, including the European Space Agency. Can you tell us more about this kind of a cooperation with those international organizations?
Well, the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs is the functioning part of the United Nations Committee on Peaceful Use of Outer Space. And also, they're the governing body of the implementation.
And guys, let me just tell you that
it's more or less
right now Chinese have their space station, Russians had their space station, and obviously US had their space station. China have launched their own space station right now. And let me just tell you that we have another player coming up in the space station market, if you can say that. The ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, is also planning to put its own space station in orbit. Right now, they will be launching their first humans to the space from the Indian soil by the next year. And then when it is successful, they will look in forward for the space station, the actual space station designed by India in space. So that there will be, if that is successful and if that is possible and if that is complete, there will be 3 space stations at the same time in the orbit. That would be so cool to have.
Telemetry tracking and control, cross support. That because of the geographic locations, we did receive a lot of support from ESA, including the lunar missions. And as well as the deep space exploration missions.
Sorry to interrupt there, Mr. Xu, because we're entering a critical point. The solar panels, looks like the solar panels on the Tianhe Core Module, they have successfully deployed. You're seeing that solar panel wings stretching out from the main core. How critical is this, Dr. Yang?
You see that we can see from the screen, this is a 3D animation. Although it is an animation, but the status, what I mean is the status of the solar panels is based on the telemetry data getting from the downlink. So you can see that we can sure that this status is confirmed by the data getting either from the ground tracking, space tracking ships or from the Tianlian data relay satellite. So you can see, we can confirm that the solar panels has been unfolded properly.
Yeah, another major move completed by Tianhe Core Module. And obviously, after the space station is completed, we will send astronauts up to space, right? So let's talk about this. China has selected 2 rounds of astronauts already. It now has, what, like 17 active astronauts? 11 of them have flown into space. And the country is now about to select a 3rd round of astronauts. And they used to come from the Air Force only, right? But Mr. Xu, I'm hearing that civilians now can apply to these missions as missions specialists. Is it true?
Well, selecting astronauts from Air Force is simply because of the physics and the conditions that they have flown. But I think in the future we will select astronauts from the common community based on scientific backgrounds. This is also true in NASA. Once they have the space station and shuttle, they used to select people from the Air Force, and then followed by a number of astronauts that are basically with the scientific background, so they can do more and understand more of these onboard missions.
And Mr. Xu and Dr. Yang, in the following stage, astronauts crews will be sent to the space station by taking Long March 2-5, and a space official said in March that there will be another Long March 2F rocket to stand by in case there is an emergency rescue mission. Tell us more about those safety procedures.
Well, you see that the Long March 2F for the launch of Shenzhou 12 has already arrived at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. But before that, we should perform the Tianzhou 2 mission. The launch of the Tianzhou 2 will be performed the next month, and docked to this Tianhe Core Module, which can provide the most of the supplies for the 3 months residence of our Shenzhou 12 crew members in this station. So, so maybe in June, the Shenzhou 12 will be launched and bring 3 astronauts into this station, and they will coming from the front docking port, entering the station, and then open the hatch of the rear part of the cargo ship and bring the supplies from the Tianzhou 2 to this station. And also we will have the EVA space suits, 2 of the EVA space suits improved from the original Tianhe space suits to test the EVA technologies during this mission. And as you mentioned, I think this will be a routinary preparation in the future. Yes. In every moment, there will be a Shenzhou spaceship and Long March 2F rocket in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center acting as a rescue, as a backup for rescue missions. But if the former turn of the astronauts is safe, so this rocket and this Shenzhou spaceship will be used for the transportation of the next expedition team.
Yeah, that reminds us that
there is one great question here. Ted Harrison asked, since India wants to also build a space station, as I said before, why not build a new module from India and add it to the ISS? Great question. And let me just tell you that see, the thing with the building own space station is that we need a backup. Okay, we need a backup. If there is some problem with the ISS right now and they have to, you know, just deorbit it or just vacate it altogether, and we don't even have another space station as in the orbit, then there will be some problem as in for the scientists and the researchers. They will not be able to do that. And if we have any backup option in space right now, it's the Chinese space station, then obviously it will help. And also the other thing is that just building some space stations, and also for the ISS right now, if you are talking about the ISS is very old, and maintaining the components of the ISS is now, you know, being very expensive. So it is now like the components are being replaced and made with accordance to the new technology, but still it is very old. So why not have some space station which is built from scratch and is actually made from all the new technologies available right now. The ISS was made in 1998 and now it is 2020, so obviously very new technologies are available. So why can't we use them and maybe increase the efficiency of the space station and boost the science output? So yeah,
that our Chang'e 6 will land in the South Pole Aitken Basin on the far side of the moon very soon. You see that originally the Chang'e 6 is the backup of Chang'e 5, but the Chang'e 5 is already been successfully accomplished, so it has a new goal to land on the far side of the moon and get samples back. This is very important, very meaningful for the preparation of setting up a scientific research station in the South Pole regions, as announced by China National Space Agency and the Russian Space Agency to have a joint missions in the future. So the Chang'e 6, 7, and 8 will be recognized as a preparation for setting up this ground station on the lunar surface in the future. And also, if the Tianwen-1 Mars mission can be successful landed on the Martian surface in the future, we will have sample return missions within this decade. So you know that until now there is no other countries in the world that have completed sample return mission from the Mars, because it's really, really difficult. So I hope that this can also be successful. In the future, China also plans to have the missions to the asteroids and to the Jupiter and its moons, or even beyond, to the Uranus or Neptune. And for the manned space programs, you know that our space station can work in space for more than 10 years, and during this period, we are also preparing for our potential human missions to the moon. And you see, last year we launched the Long March 5B Lexus launch. It is a test launch, so we also tested the new generation spaceship, a test module. This module can be recognized as the rudiment of the future spaceship, bring our astronauts to the moon.
Yeah, we did get a view of the audience who are watching.
China is actually into space business. They are not, they are actually ticking all the boxes one by one. They are trying to do the sample return mission. NASA is doing the sample return mission right now after so many, rover missions. But the China, it has not even landed on the surface yet, and still they are planning for the sample return mission. I mean, they are going to the asteroid also. They are going to the Jupiter and the Uranus and whatnot, and obviously landing the moons, landing the humans on the moon also. I mean, what is the thing which they are not doing? So guys, there will be like a supplement to the NASA now, that CNSA, if they are capable and if they are able to do what they are claiming right now.
But it's not evenly distributed. The strength of the magnetic field is not evenly distributed. And some reports mention that some part...
Yes, Labrat, I would love to make someone moderator here. I mean, I know the thing that it is going out of the hands right now. Let me just make someone the mod again, and hopefully...
What you mentioned is SAA, which is located in the South Atlantic Ocean. At this region, the radiation is much stronger than the other regions even in the same altitude. So, so we have considered this influence, and also the astronauts is well protected by the space station.
Yes, Himanshu, you are now the mod. Please tackle some of these political related issues.
Some of my friends are the Apollo astronauts who have visited the moon. You see that for the Apollo missions, they must coming across the radiation belt. They say that during the crossing of the Van Allen radiation belt, they can feel flares in their
when
eyes.
they close their eyes, you can see the flashing.
But because this is only a very short period, so do not have some
we have the onboard views from the space station.
Long-term residents, it is a different matter. So we must consider this. And also, it is very interesting that there are also influence of this radiation to instruments. For instance, to measure the accurate attitude of a spacecraft, we need star sensors. In some cases, especially in what you mentioned, the South Atlantic Ocean, some of the star sensors cannot work because of the high energy particles also have images on the CCD.
All right, you're looking at the live picture from the Beijing Aerospace City. Premier Li Keqiang and the members of Standing Committee of CPC Political Bureau.
Sunrise on the station.
Was among the audience, giving a round of applause after seeing successful deployment of solar panel wings. And Dr. Yang, what are we seeing here?
Yes, look, you can see that there are two cameras on board the station. We can see the video from the cameras. Now, especially from the screen on the left, you can see that this camera shows that the huge solar panels has been extended properly. And this means that it's this moment the station is orbiting the Earth under the sunshine. So we can see, we can have these videos from the station. This proves that the solar panels have already provided the electricity to the whole station, not depending on the storage batteries. So the station can go on its task continuously.
Yeah, there are numerous cameras on this capsule, right? And they have light on it to illuminate the spacecraft so that it shows up on camera. They can use it for engineers if there to be a problem or anything. They want to have cameras on all the parts and components like this one, providing you this view. In case there's an anomaly, right, it can be a good visual representation or a good reference of what's going on.
That's right. Mr. Xu, there are 5 docking ports on the core module of the Tianhe, which is what we're watching right now. It is reportedly prepared for 2 docking ports, 2 berthing ports, 1 EVA hatch, and what are they?
Well, I think this comprises the connecting part.
That is the live picture coming out at the Wenchang Launch Site. People are cheering and applauding. You're watching the command. Vice Chairman of Central Military Commission
the
make an
honorable
announcement.
leaders,
Let's listen.
experts, dear colleagues. According to the report, the Long March 5B Y2 carrier rocket has already lifted Tianhe Core Module to the scheduled orbit, and it's also having normal function. And I declare that the mission of Tianhe Core Module is a complete success.
The big red screen, El Clásico.
Now, let's give the floor to the Deputy Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Zhang Youxia, to read the congratulations of General Secretary Xi Jinping. The space station and its headquarters, and as well as all of those organs and departments responsible for this mission, and dear colleagues in charge of this mission, on the occasion of a complete success of the launching of Tianhe Core Module, on behalf of the Central Military Commission, CPC Central Committee, and the State Council, I would love to give my congratulations to all of you. Establishing the space station and the space laboratory is one key step of the 3-step strategy, and it's also one necessary step to establish a strong space and astronautic power. And the success of today's mission signifies that we have entered into a comprehensive stage of space development. It lays a solid foundation for future missions. I hope all of the staff members could further carry out the spirit of atomic, 2 bombs and 1 satellite, and have a complete success of the space missions and contribute to building a modern society with Chinese characteristics. Xi Jinping, April 29, 2021.
There you have it. Mr. Zhang Youxia, Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission, An official confirmation for the command center, the launch is a success. Again, the launch of the Tianhe Core Module is a success. And China has successfully sent the Core Module, a space station, into orbit. It is going to stay there, waiting to be joined by other modules till the space station is fully assembled in space. And later this year, is going to be visited by Chinese astronauts as China's manned space programs continues to move forward.
And in addition to the Tianhe Core Module that has been launched today, China is planning to at least 10
of the space station.
Well, in addition to this Tianhe today, we are expected to see more missions to be carried out. China is planning at least 10 more launches of other major modules, as well as crewed and cargo missions, as Shu Yan mentioned.
All right, that is Premier Li Keqiang. You're seeing there, shaking hands with all the engineers, followed by other officials. And because of the pandemic is under control now in China, shaking hands is no longer a taboo. We have to mention that.
Yeah.
Congratulating the team of a successful launch.
They have been working on this project for decades, and they just have a good start today.
Yeah. What do you think is going through their minds, Dr. Yang, after this successful launch?
Well, this is a really great milestone, not only for the history of China manned space activities, for China's aerospace, but for the history of the whole country and for the whole world. I can still remember 10 years before, in the 29th of September, in the studio of CCTV News, your colleague, Mr. Zhou Yue, said that today we are one step closer to have China's own space station during the live coverage of the launch of Tianhe 1.
That is the live picture from Wenchang Launch Site. The officials there shaking the hands with engineers, congratulating them on their hard work. What a historic day for China's manned space mission.
And today
okay, so guys, we just saw the launch and the successful launch of the Chinese Space Station Core Module, and it is right now in space. Solar panels have been deployed, although the separation was a bit glitchy, but they managed to maintain the orientation and gain control of it. And now everything is nominal. Solar panels deployed, the solar panels are generating power also, and now we are just waiting for the next mission to go to the space and rendezvous with the space station and do the things which it wants to do.
Build space infrastructures. We also have more ambitious space projects and programs. We know in the past, U.S. and Russia had more than 1,000 launches each country, but we're catching up. We have more than 300 and 400 launches, and also we have booming commercial sectors in the space areas. So space has been areas that is very intense development. This is largely due to the development of the economy in the nation. Every country, space activities and space ambitions are reflected by their GDP.
Yeah, Mr. Xu, let's just review what's going to happen in the rest of this year. What we
exactly
expect to see.
we want to
next,
know
right?
the missions.
Exciting parts is the building of the CSS, the Chinese Space Station. This will be followed by next month cargo ship and manned crew in the months to follow, and 11 launches in total. So this has been delayed somehow because of the Long March 5 hiccup 2 years back. So the space station is supposed to finish in this year. So we're delaying that for 1 year, but we're having intensive launches of the space station. And this year we're also going to see exciting moments that in May or June we'll have a landing mission on Mars. So this has been just newly named, the lander and the rover. So it's a single mission with multiple purpose, which successfully inserted the orbiter into the Mars orbit. And this year we also had this lunar sample return mission successfully bring back 1.7 plus kilos of lunar sample for the first time in Chinese history and for the first time in 40 years. So exciting moments are also looking into the construction and the launching of the Tianhe 6, which is on the South Pole. We're going to see in situ resource lunar volatiles in this mission. and also lots of international collaborations in these areas and beyond.
Thank you so much for two gentlemen to sharing this, the insight with us today. And that's Professor Yang Yuguang from China Aerospace Science and Industry Cooperation, and Mr. Xu Yansong, the Director General in Asia Pacific Space Cooperation Organization.
Yeah, thank you. And that is all for our special coverage today. And we will leave you with some of the key moments from the Tianhe Core Module launch. And I'm Li Qiuyuan.
So, thank you so much, Samuel Kirk, for the 349 super sticker. I really appreciate it. It really helps me. And now just see the recap of the launch, and then I will talk.
5、4、3、2、1，点火！点火！
That fireball and then green flash, and then did you see the fireball, guys? That was a fireball there. I mean, wow, that is so cool. See the camera angles we just didn't see at that time. Wow. This rocket is very beautiful when it lifts off and as such also. So this was the fairing sap, and then this happened. So during this separation, although we had some hiccups, as you can see, maybe the core stage actually got it pushed the spacecraft and actually hit the spacecraft. The core stage actually hit the spacecraft after deployment. Maybe that caused the problem. But after all, they established the communication and the control of the station. Now everything is good. So finally, guys, we had a successful launch of this space station. I mean, wow, this was so cool. And guys, China is on to something, and right now their next major milestone will be the landing on the Mars. They have already entered into the Martian orbit when the Percy and the Hope Mars mission entered. They have already entered into the Mars orbit. They are now actually orbiting the Mars and looking for the potential landing sites. Once they have that, maybe by the end of the May or to the June, they will land the lander and the rover on the Mars. So we do have something really cool coming up from the China now. And after they do this, after they land the rover, they will initiate their sample return mission, the Mars sample return mission, which NASA is doing now. NASA is planning now. So if by any chance China is able to do it before NASA, oh man, that would create some good amount of excitement there. But keeping on the track record of what China has done in the recent years and in the recent missions, we can very well expect some great news coming up from them. What about the Mars? Soon Mars drop in 2 weeks. Okay, China is on to some serious space mission, better for China and better for the world. Yes, Imanshu. So right now, if you just see, these are the components here. This is the provided by the shimken.info. Shout out to them. This is the module which we already saw. The solar panels have been extended, and this EVA airlock with handrail, this is the airlock in which the astronauts will be able to go outside the station for a spacewalk. In this, there will not be any those docking or anything like that. This EVA airlocks where the yellowish rails are there, this is just for the spacewalk. So they have actually put everything into one place and done something like this. So this is so cool. Thank you so much, John Shin. And what don't you okay, Nice day with fantastic launches. Oh yes, how can I forget the launches? This today was the very hectic day for myself and for me, because I mean, first of all we had the Vega rocket launch which happened, and then just after that we had this Chinese launch of this Tianhe space station module, and then after that we had the Starlink mission. Everything happened so rapidly in quick succession. I don't remember any time in which this has happened. In 3 hours, 3 launches in quick succession. I haven't heard of anything like that before. This was so cool. This was actually the launch day, which you can define the launch day for the whole world. Wow. When will the lunar sample be given to the other space agency, Samuel Kirk? This has already been initiated, and I think ESA has already, you know, got it, and they have these moon samples already being displayed on the museum. So science is coming out of the moon samples which they have got, and they are giving it to the people. So yeah, that is happening. So if you have any other questions, you can surely ask me. We can very well repeat about the space station. If you have just joined in, let me just tell you about the space station characteristics here. So we have this forward docking pad, docking port. These 2 docking ports are there, and then we have one below docking port. This is not a docking port. This is an EVA airlock from which the astronauts, not astronauts, the taikonauts can come and do the spacewalk. So in this forward docking unit, mainly the Shenzhou spacecraft, or the, you can say for the ISS it's the Crew Dragon, right? The Shenzhou spacecraft is the like a Crew Dragon for the Chinese space agency. So it will dock here. These 2 docking ports will have the research station, the experiment stations, and this is the backup port in which if by chance this does not have any you know has any problem with this docking port, they can dock in here. Also, if they want 2 spacecraft at the same time, they can do that also. And then we also have one at the back, one docking port at the very back, and the role of that is to dock the cargo supply missions which will happen to the space station. The cargo supply missions will dock behind, the crew missions will dock here, because, and that happens because the the pressurized unit is here only. There we don't have a pressurized unit, so cargo supply can happen there. So yeah, that is the case. And sorry, this is the internal view of the station, this core module, which you can see. Shout out to Space Shuttle Almanac. We have sleeping zone 1, sleeping zone 2. This is the habitable module here. This is the means the life support module. This is the more like a resource pod in which the resources, regenerate life support will be there, the food will be there, exercising there. Also it can handle some research also. Exposure experiment zone in which they will expose to the unpressurized environment for any experiments they want to conduct. So this is the thing here which you can see. I really like that they have the coding zone here. I mean, I always wonder whether some, you know, computer science engineers can go to the station as a mission specialist because the computer science engineer, mainly the software engineers, they can do very much everything from the ground only, because they can, you know, if there is any problem with the software, they can just go and update the software, they can load or upload the software to the station and all those things. But if they have a coding zone here, I mean that would be cool thing to watch. This is how this station will be completed. They will have around 11 launches for that. This Tianzhou mission is the resupply mission, the cargo resupply mission, and the Shenzhou is the crew mission. So this is the VR actually, which you can see here and experience by yourself, the Shenzhou, Tianhe, and all those things, and get the hang of what the space station, you know, have in its store for us. This is the Shenzhou spacecraft, more like a Soyuz one. This is the node cabin in which more of those docking ports are there, the 5 docking ports. This is the EVA airlock most probably. This is one the life support system, and these are the experimental station here and here. And then we have one docking port at the downwards also. So that is the case. Then the life support system, life control cabin. This is the cabin in which those people can sleep here. These are the beds and all those things which you can see here. Mainly life support systems are here, like sanitary and all those things. I don't know, maybe sanitaries are also here only. Then we have this resource pod. In this resource pod they have the life support system, in the sense the regenerative system and things like that. Thank you so much, John, for the $10 super chat, super sticker. Really appreciated it. Really helps the channel to do what I can do. If you like my thing, what I do, you can consider subscribing, becoming a Patreon. It will really help me. Patreon link is down in the description, and consider subscribing for more such cool streams if you like it. And give it a like. I don't know, I'm not keeping the track of how many likes have been there, so please, if you can, if you like the stream, give it a like. So yeah, this is the resource pod in which the life support system will be there, the oxygen regeneration, the water treatment, and the food availability. This will all be here. And this is the unpressurized cargo. This is the way to the this what we call that, the more thicker module there. Okay, in which there mostly there is a pressurized pressurized one, and this unpressured, sorry, this one. Right now we are in the resource pod, so resource pod is the thicker one. This one is the unpressurized. If you open this will be an unpressurized cabin in front of this thing. So yeah, that is the case. And then we have this experiment cabin in which astronauts or taikonauts will do the research and conduct the experiments. Mostly the work hours will be spent here. So you can see this thing here. We do have the classic laptops stand, and the plants also. How can we forget about the plants? So yeah, that is the case. And we have 2 of these things. So we have another experiment cabin here, which we can see here. Maybe they differ about from the capabilities which they have, but yeah, this is how everything looks like. And yes, I think that's pretty much about it. If you have any other questions, you can ask me. Yes, we shouldn't be stuck together at the end. Atmosphere related degradation, yes, exactly. Satellites in geo will take millions of years to deorbit, even to defunct. Actually, the satellites in geostationary orbit can have another disturbances. They don't have as such atmospheric drag, but they have the perturbations, disturbances there, radiation, the solar pressure disturbances there, and those things tend to change the orbit. If you have any questions, you can surely ask me. I'll try to answer them, and otherwise we can very well end the stream. Also, what other things we have for this week? This week was very busy for space launches. I mean, 3 launches on the same day. That was so cool. Tomorrow we have another launch from China, and then we have the epic Starship launch on May 1. Just a sec here. And okay, so what else do we have here? Do we have anything else to discuss? What is it going to be a manned? Okay, so first of all, there will be a resupply mission in which the cargo resupply will happen, in which they will also test some other things, the docking mechanisms, the front and the rear docking, and then it will mostly be deorbited as such. I don't know what will happen, but then the Shenzhou spacecraft will appear, and then it will dock. So first of all, the resupply, and then the manned space, the crew will appear there. So that is the thing. Yes, base boy log. At geostationary orbit, we don't have any as such effects of the atmospheric drag, but we do have the effects of perturbations, the radiation pressure, the solar pressures, and all those things. When okay, so Zeno 187, why there are lots of low orbit satellites too, why can't they fall to the earth? Because see, the thing is that if you are at around 500 kilometer orbit, then it will take around 5 years for a satellite to 3 to 5 years for a satellite to fall back to the earth. Okay, if you are 500 kilometer altitude is, you know, taken as a standard in which you can go and deploy your CubeSats which does not have any propulsion module. So that is the case, and below 500 kilometers, the atmospheric drag is so much that the decay actually happens very fast. So at 1-2 years mainly, it will hardly survive. So that is the case. Many satellites aim to 400 to 500 kilometer mark. Also, if you why they don't fall to the earth, the satellites which are in the orbit, they don't fall to the earth because they have the propulsion module installed in them. So whenever their orbit gets decayed, they you know, start the engines and again recover that lost orbit, lost altitude, whatever they say, lost altitude because of the drag. And this phenomena is known as station keeping. This is done for all satellites and all those things which are in orbit, no matter what altitude you are in. Geostationary requires, the LEO requires, medium earth MEO also requires, every orbit requires some kind of station keeping. So that is the case here. Why show a virtual computer generated presentation of the space station interior? Because that is what we can right now see here. Otherwise, I am not a space station, you know, a person who can actually show you the interior of the space station, right? So it is better to have at least some kind of visual effects of space. So what's the news about the China's Mars lander? So the news about the China's Mars lander is that it will be landed onto the Mars around May to June, and they have actually named the rover also. If I'm not wrong, it has been named as Zhuorong. I don't know what it means in Chinese, but it actually, if I'm not wrong, resembles some fire, red fire. Honestly, I actually loved the name Chitu Rover. Chitu Rover. Actually, it was also very nominated to be a name for the rover, and I love that because it actually meant red hair, and the name is also very cute, to be honest, and it actually resembles the name of the rover which China has on the moon, the U2 rover. I mean, not resemble. It is very, you know, rhyming there. So yeah. No, Danny, they won't be docking it with the ISS. They have their complete another space station in their own control, so that won't be a thing. So I think we can very well end the stream right now, and yep, if any, I don't think so we do have any other questions. So we will meet again, hopefully with the Starship SN15 flight. Otherwise, whatever launches will come up, I'll be here with you trying to explain things in the best way possible and giving you the very best insight of everything. So what else? Just a sec. If you have this time, if you have some questions, you can ask me. I have this thing to do. Come on, work, dude. Finally. Okay, done and done. Okay, so I think we can very well end this stream now. If you like the stream, just give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing for more such awesome content, and hopefully I can deliver some video content also soon, which will happen soon enough if I get some time. Right now being so much busy, but yeah, how can we cooperate with China? We can. But when is this space station set to be completed? How many modules? This station is very ambitious, and this is set to be completed by the end of 2022 only. Just 1.5 years for the construction. And how many modules? It will have around 2, 3, 4 modules, if I'm not wrong. 4 if you count. No, not 4. It will have 1, 2, and 3 modules basically, and the fourth and the fifth will be resupply and the crew one. So 3 modules. Oh wow, John, that was so cool. If you just saw the SpaceX launch by your eyes only, I mean that would be so cool to see. So I think we have everything covered now. So okay guys, we can end the stream now. So until then, this is Priyanshu Roila. You just saw Rocket Gyan. Stay safe, stay healthy, and bye bye.